After hearing the secret news that a group of more than 200 knights were marching towards Xiang City, they immediately set up an ambush. Leading the group were the Tauren girls, Nyo Dai, and Avery. The red-haired guard, his face covered in blood, saw something was wrong and shouted, "Gather, there's an enemy." Baron Sharo asked his guard with a frightened expression, trembling, "Are there Western knights ahead? Let's retreat." Hearing this, the red-haired guard no longer respected his superiors and punched Baron Sharo hard in the face. The Baron came to his senses and spat out a mouthful of fresh red blood. The red-haired guard shouted at Sharo, "Do you think this is a toy, you can go as you please?" After all, he was a famous general who had commanded hundreds of battles. It would be too embarrassing to retreat now. Baron Sharo covered his face in pain, grimacing, blood running down his chin. He felt wronged, even his father had never beaten him. Indeed, he had been born into luxury, served food and water, and had never been to the battlefield before, so it was only natural that he would think of abandoning his child. The red-haired guard threatened Baron Sharo, now that he was the enemy sooner or later, only by fighting would he have a chance of survival. "If you say any more humiliating words, I will kill you immediately." After saying that, he drew his sword and commanded the troops behind him, "Don't be afraid, the enemy has fewer men than us." The soldiers lined up, unison, drawing all their weapons, showing their determination to fight to the end, not afraid of death. At this time, the knights of Taeduong City also obeyed Ngudai's command and put on armor. Both sides were in high spirits, roaring, shouting, and attacking. The fight dispelled the gloomy, desolate atmosphere of the deep forest, disturbing the sky, creating a hazy white smoke. With just one basic move, the Tauren defeated the soldier. Fresh blood spurted out, and he groaned, "Ah." On this side, the red-haired guard of Baron Sharo was no less formidable. With one fatal sword strike, he defeated the soldiers of Taeduong City. The dying soldiers cried out, "Ah." The Tauren Avery and the red-haired guard passed each other, creating a blinding white light, along with the sound of wind. Suddenly, they both turned to look at each other. The red-haired guard bit the reins of his horse with his teeth and drew his sword, seeming to realize that this was his formidable opponent. He charged straight at Avery. After a while, the curtain fell, both sides were dead, the Western army had won. Avery, with his sword covered in blood dripping to the ground, defeated the red-haired guard, a warhorse of the Lord of Lima City. Avery said he was a respectable opponent who showed no fear or cowardice even in death. She appreciated the loyalty and will of the guard, but unfortunately we are the enemy. Avery continued, he led the team and protected his master very well. He was a true knight. The red-haired guard, although he was on the ground, still exuded the aura of a heroic hero, worthy of being remembered by future generations. Nyo Dai said, "Find a piece of land nearby to bury him, he deserves a place to rest." The soldiers obeyed Nyo Dai's order and replied, "Understood." After a fierce and tragic battle, the soldiers cleaned up the battlefield and escorted the enemy leader back to the city to wait for the city lord to deal with him. At this moment, a voice echoed from the West Yun City Lord's mansion. "How bold, daring to sneak attack the Count's knights." Baron Sharo was immediately brought before Lu Feng for interrogation. Mina stood behind Lu Feng and shouted, "Stop pretending, your plan to hire assassins to kidnap the Lord of Xiang City has been exposed." Baron Sharo thought to himself, "Those rats dared to betray me." He calmly feigned innocence and replied, "I don't know what you guys are talking about. I only followed orders from my father, Count Pulley, to pay my respects to the noble lord. You guys didn't make it clear that you ambushed us." Mina's sharp eyes seemed to have seen through Baron Sharo's intentions. She said, and still not admit it. She drew her sword and slashed a line across Sharo's cheek. Baron Sharo's face darkened, blood flowed down his cheeks, he panicked and replied fearfully, "Ah, blood. You're bleeding, you slut, you dare to hurt me." Mina jumped out, holding a knife to Baron Sharo's neck. He was scared and screamed loudly, "Help." Lu Feng calmly sat with his hands clasped together, gently saying, "Tell me, what exactly are you going to Xiang City for?" Baron Sharo turned pale and confessed everything. "We just wanted to find a castle to set up camp and train knights." Mina still held the knife to Sharo's neck and asked again, "What is the purpose of training knights?" The Baron replied, "Helping the fourth prince ascend the throne." Lu Feng smiled sinisterly and continued, "So it turns out he is rebelling, no wonder he has to go to the suburban cities." Baron Sharo was furious and said, "How could the royal family's affairs be considered treason? That position was originally for qualified princes to sit on." Lu Feng asked again, "Tell me clearly, what is the situation in the royal capital?" Baron Sharo continued, "The king was seriously ill and had not yet decided on a successor. The first prince, second prince and fourth prince all wanted to fight for it." Hearing this, Lu Feng paused, his eyes filled with something indescribable. Then Lu Feng ordered Nyo Di to take him down and lock him up first. Nyo Di obeyed. "Yes," Baron Sharo shouted, "What? No, don't lock me up, I'm a viscount. He thought that if he told everything, he could be released, but no, he was still locked up. Lu Feng was deep in thought at this moment. The prince sat down. Speaking like this, I'm afraid the future of the royal capital will be very chaotic. No, perhaps it's already in turmoil. I wonder how Darlene and the others are doing. At the same time, in Catherine's room, Inglo's royal capital, Catherine and Darlene were sitting together talking. Catherine suddenly started crying. They wouldn't let her go out to play. They even killed the messenger bird that the city lord Lu Feng gave her. Darlene, what should I do? Darlene's eyes were also filled with tears. She didn't know what to do to help her friend. Catherine lay with her head on Darlene's lap, tears welling up in her eyes. Darlene stroked Catherine's silky, golden hair and comforted her, but he couldn't go on a hunger strike because of that. He had lost a lot of weight in the few days they hadn't seen each other. Catherine replied, I'm not on a hunger strike, it's just that the food they cook is so bad. Darlene smiled at Catherine's answer. She continued, that's good, what's the loss, but not the loss of the stomach. I'm leaving for Taeduong City in a few days, do you want to go with me? Catherine replied sadly, her father would not give it. Catherine then burst into tears again, tears streaming down her face. Darlene asked, should we sneak away? Catherine replied, no, the guards outside are very strict. Besides, I know very well that my fate has already been decided. No matter how much I struggle, it will be useless. Catherine resented her miserable fate. She wondered, should I marry the prince? My father said, if there is someone who is more brilliant than the prince, then I can marry that person. Darlene, do you think it is possible? Do you think it is possible? Is there anyone who can compare to the prince who will be the future king? Catherine's tears flowed, holding Darlene's hands, as if she was expecting something from Darlene. Darlene hesitantly said, even more brilliant than the prince. If I say, it's Lu Feng then. Catherine blushed and replied shyly. But Lu Feng had nothing to do with her. Darlene encouraged Catherine, no matter what, give it a try. I'll go to Xiang City to ask Lu Feng for help, he'll definitely help. Catherine shyly replied, I hope so. It seemed like she had envisioned a happy ending with our male lead Lu Feng. The scene changed to the Xiang City lord's mansion. Lu Feng's voice echoed out, oh. The leader of the beast tribe agreed to our deal. Ngungu replied, yes, the other party said they wanted to meet you to negotiate. The address is Blackwater City, and asked us to choose you. Nicole brought out a cup of tea for Lu Feng and also joined Lu Feng, Huron and Nyowu in giving their opinions. How about this, Nyowu, in a few days, you go to the beast tribe again, buy 500 horses and bring them here. And tell the leader of the beast tribe that she can choose the time to meet, as a demonstration of our sincerity. Nyowu said loudly, clearly. Lu Feng was deep in thought. After spring, Xiang City would have to start a large-scale construction. Horses were the main means of transportation, so it was better to prepare in advance. Lu Feng asked Huron, Miss Huron, I heard you came here specially this time to study. Huron replied, yes, City Lord Lu Feng. The bustling development of Taeduong City in recent months can be said to be a miracle. Our Haktui City also wants to learn from it. Lu Feng continued with a serious expression, you want to learn, I have no opinion, but those confidential things, we have no way to teach you. Huron exclaimed loudly, it's okay, it's okay. Lu Feng replied, then you should follow Nicole to learn how to handle internal affairs first. Nicole bowed to Lu Feng's promotion. Huron then went out to talk with Nicole. Huron respectfully said, Miss Nicole, I'll be bothering you in the future. Nicole replied, Miss Huron, don't be like that. Don't worry, I will guide you with all my heart. Ellie brought a stack of reports to Lu Feng's desk, young master, this is the latest report from Drunken Palace. Lu Feng replied, you've worked hard. Lu Feng asked again, right, how is the repair of the bridge at Yutui River? Ellie was eating a lollipop in her hand and was ready to go, just waiting for the official start of construction. The library had also opened and the location for the editorial office had been chosen. Lu Feng said loudly, the secret level of the movable type was raised to a level. Lu Feng thought to himself, newspapers are an important medium for transmitting news. They have provocative content and can control public opinion and manipulate people's hearts. Therefore, the important technique of newspapers is movable type, which cannot be leaked. Ellie replied, I remember. Lu Feng continued, also, have you found enough people in charge of the daily operations of the editorial office? Ellie replied, according to the young master's request, the editor-in-chief of the editorial office must be literate and able to write and publish articles. There aren't many people like that in the Western City, they must be recruiting now. At this moment, the scene changed to a Western textile factory. The workers were engrossed in weaving. Then a worker with gray hair and a blue apron spoke up, it's time to go home. Everyone, pack up your things and go home. Gaba, the bear girl, thought to herself, she finished 4 bundles of cloth early today, and her speed has gotten faster. If she continues like this, she will get a higher salary at the end of the month. The textile workers happily returned home after a tiring day of work. Gaba hummed the melody of the song as she walked. She thought about buying Nuayu 2 meat buns on the way back as a reward for weaving another batch of cloth. Suddenly, people shouted along the street, hurry up, if you're late, you're done for. Yes, it's rare to encounter such a good thing. A crowd of people came from nowhere, running straight down the street. Gaba was bewildered, she didn't understand what was happening. She asked a handsome guy with blue hair who was running after the group, what happened? Why is everyone running towards that direction? The guy said loudly, the library and the editorial office that the Lord built have opened. The editorial office is now recruiting literate staff. I heard the salary is very high, everyone is rushing to try their hand. He was so engrossed in talking to Gaba that he almost forgot his main task. Oh, I won't tell you anymore. If he's late, he probably won't have any work left. Gaba thought, literate staff, Nuayu likes reading so much, maybe she can get hired. But, her legs are uncomfortable and her body is weak. If I'm not there, something might happen. Let's go buy some buns first. Gaba got home just as night fell. She said, Nuayu, I'm home. Nuayu was sitting on the bed reading a book, hearing her sister calling. She was very happy. Gaba kindly asked his sister, Nuayu, if you're all right at home alone. Nuayu replied, what's wrong with me? You're too worried. It's just that sitting around with nothing to do is boring. Gaba said gently, bored. She continued to ask, do you want to? She was about to say something but hesitated and thought again. It was fine for me to go work with her, but if she was rejected due to poor health, she would be heartbroken. Gaba thought about her sister being body-shamed at work, a disabled person working for the Lord. If she couldn't even walk, how could she work? It was really ridiculous. Nuayu saw that her sister was about to say something, but hesitated. She asked her sister again, what's wrong, sister? Gaba smiled and replied, it's okay. Gaba continued, Nuayu, today I bought you 2 steamed buns, I've been hungry all day, eat them while they're hot. Nuayu replied, that's right, I still have the steamed buns you bought yesterday, you must be hungry after work. Gaba closed her eyes and said angrily, Nuayu, I bought it for you, why don't you eat it? Gaba said that, but she knew very well that her sister loved her very much, worked hard, but still bought her favorite food. Nuayu smiled and replied, I'm not hungry. You've worked all day and are very tired. Eat. As soon as she finished speaking, a loud noise came from Nuayu's stomach. Gaba shouted, look, your stomach. The sound in the stomach rang out again, but it was not from Nuayu's stomach but from Gaba's stomach. Gaba smiled shyly. Nuayu also smiled, feeling shy for her. At this point, Gaba couldn't help but burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, so the 2 sisters sat down to eat the buns. Nuayu handed her a bun and said, I can't finish 2, you and I will each have 1. Gaba reached out to take the bun and replied, I really can't do anything about it. While eating, Nuayu asked Gaba, sister, do you want to work at the city lord's mansion? With your abilities, you will definitely be highly regarded by the city lord. Gaba, while chewing on a piece of bun, replied, I only know how to fight, how could the city lord take a fancy to me? I think I'm doing pretty well now. Gaba thought to herself, if she worked in the city lord's mansion, she wouldn't have time to take care of Nuayu like she does now. It seemed that Nuayu had guessed the real reason why she refused such a good job. She said sadly, sorry, I implicated you. Gaba slammed her hand on the pillow. Nuayu, she ran over to stroke her silky hair, then kissed Nuayu on the forehead and said, we are sisters. Nuayu seemed to feel Gaba's feelings for her. She hesitated and couldn't say anything. Sister? Gaba ppm. Nuayu continued to speak, there is nothing called involvement between us. According to the memories of the Bear Clan elder sister Gaba, it was a dark night, a huge snowstorm, and the wind was cold and piercing. Catch them, don't let them escape, were the sounds of many people holding torches chasing after the 2 sisters Gaba and Nuayu. Nuayu carried her older sister on her back and ran non-stop in the snowy night. Although she was tired and still panting, she did not stop. Gaba was carried by his younger sister, his face full of anxiety and urging. Nuayu, put me down, you run away quickly. But Nuayu firmly refused. No, sister, I will definitely take you away from those slave traders. The 2 of them ran for a long time and finally arrived at a wooden house. Nuayu laid down her feverish older sister Gaba, covered her with a blanket, and said softly, sister, we're safe now. Nuayu's legs were red and painful from running in the snow for so long, shaking from time to time, but she still encouraged her sister by her side, you have to persevere, get well soon, then collapsed beside the bed. The next day, after a good night's sleep, Gaba's fever was completely gone. She woke up and shouted, Nuayu, I'm finally fine. Nuayu stayed by her bedside all night. Seeing her recover, she smiled and replied, that's great, sister. But due to being too tired and the pain from her leg, she finally couldn't hold on any longer. Before she could finish her sentence, she fell to the ground and fainted. With a loud thud, Gaba shouted, Nuayu. Back to the present, Gaba looked at his sister sitting in a wheelchair, opening a book to read. Gaba's face was full of sadness, so later, Nuayu's legs lost feeling. Due to being cold for too long, she could only sit or lie down every day. Her body also became increasingly weak. Remembering that reason, Gaba suddenly became more determined. She seriously promised her sister, Nuayu, don't worry, I will definitely work hard, then we will live in a better house, there will be meat to eat every day. Nuayu, you like reading, then I will buy a lot of books for you. Nuayu raised her head when she heard her sister say that and said to Gaba, sister, actually, I don't want to stay at home forever. I want to go out and find a job. Gaba immediately replied, Nuayu, you're worried about the family's financial situation, right? You don't need to worry. The salary at the textile factory will get higher and higher in the future, enough for the two of us to live in Xiang City. Hearing Gaba say that, Nuayu shook her head. Although she couldn't walk, and she knew that her sister was worried about her health, she could still do work like writing. Then suddenly Nuayu turned to hold her sister's hand and begged, I'm begging you, staying at home all the time makes me feel suffocated, moreover, I don't want to be a useless person forever. Nuayu, Gaba looked at her sister with eyes full of worry and love, but when she saw the determination in her sister's eyes, Gaba finally compromised. She raised her hand and stroked her sister's head while saying, okay, on the way back, I heard that the newspaper office that the city lord opened is currently recruiting people who can read and write. Do you want to go? Nuayu was very happy to hear that, her eyes curved into crescents with laughter, her hands raised in excitement. She honestly replied, really, I really want to go, thank you. Seeing her sister so happy, Gaba also smiled gently. The next day, at the Xiang City editorial office, two people were working and saw Lu Feng. They immediately stood up and greeted him, City Lord. Lu Feng immediately said to them, no need to be so polite, how is it, is there anyone suitable for the position of editor-in-chief? One of the two immediately replied, still not found, Lord. Interviewer number 37 come in, another person called out loudly so that the candidates outside could hear. From outside, the tall Gaba was carrying his little sister on his back. Seeing that she was bigger than the others, the two people standing at the door were a little startled. Gaba spoke up to explain, the thing is, I brought my little sister for the interview. Following the direction of the voice, Lu Feng and Mina turned back. Mina looked at the person who just entered and whispered to Lu Feng, young master, that tall bear man is called Gaba. He is the one chosen as the bodyguard that I told you about before, the one being carried on her back is her younger sister Nuayu who can't walk. Lu Feng heard this and immediately said to the blonde staff, let me interview you this time, everyone take a rest. The other person immediately agreed, yes, Sir City Lord, and then handed the introduction to Lu Feng. Nuayu was placed on a chair by her sister. Seeing that Lu Feng was the interviewer, she couldn't help but feel nervous, so she sat down a bit nervously. Lu Feng saw that the two sisters' expressions were not good, so he smiled lightly and comforted them, don't worry. Having said that, Lu Feng sat down with a standard smile on his lips. He continued speaking, I don't eat people either, please introduce yourself first. Yes, Lord City Lord. Nuayu nervously grabbed her skirt but quickly replied, my name is Nuayu, I'm a bear, 15 years old this year, I'm here to apply for the editor-in-chief position of the editorial office. Behind me is my sister, she's working in the textile factory. Lu Feng picked up a piece of paper and asked, can you read and write? Yes, Nuayu replied, but I don't know the rare words. Hearing this, Lu Feng did not hesitate to hand over a piece of paper and a pen to Nuayu on the opposite side, then clearly stated the requirements. The editor-in-chief's job was to review manuscripts. And you also need to know how to write. Let's do a small test. Take the topic of Xiang City, write an essay, let me see how your writing is. Nuayu immediately reached out for the pen and paper and replied, yes, Lord City Lord. Nuayu wrote attentively, each line of words began to appear. Gaba stood beside him, looking worried. A moment later, the essay was finished. Lu Feng picked it up and read it attentively. A moment of silence made Nuayu nervous, so Gaba put his hand on her shoulder to comfort her. After reading Nuayu's article for a while, Lu Feng finally spoke up. Nuayu, your writing skills are not good enough to take on the position of editor-in-chief. Now I'll give you two choices. 1. Follow me for a while to learn how to write articles, but you'll only get 1/3 of the salary. Wait until you can do it yourself, and I'll give you a month's salary of 1 silver coin. 2. You can refuse. Hearing that, Nuayu immediately became happy, her cheeks turning red. I choose the first one, Lord City Lord. Lu Feng looked at the little girl in front of him tenderly. He said, then you can go to work tomorrow, come straight to the editorial office, I will teach you the basics. Nuayu happily replied, I understand, Lord City Lord. Suddenly, Nuayu stopped laughing, she lowered her head and asked in a low voice. Lord, why did you choose me? It's inconvenient for me to move around. Without sister's help, I can't go anywhere. Nuayu, Gaba softly called her name. Lu Feng looked at the little girl without saying anything, then suddenly stood up and called out to Sink who was waiting at the entrance. Sink, you go back to the castle and find Nicole, locker number 60 in the warehouse, and bring the items here. Understood, Sink replied. Then Lu Feng walked to Nuayu's chair and suddenly squatted down, startling her. Lord City Lord. Lu Feng held her leg and gently squeezed it. He comforted her. It's okay. Let me see if I can cure you. Can you feel it? Nuayu's face turned slightly red as she replied. A little bit. Lu Feng immediately thought to himself, it doesn't seem like the nerves in her leg are all damaged. The bodies of the beastmen in this world are very strong, and maybe I can cure them. Then he continued to tell Nuayu, from now on when you go out, wear shoes to keep your feet warm. Massage your feet 3 times a day, morning, noon and night, to increase blood circulation. This will probably help your feet gradually regain feeling. I will remember, Lord of the City. Nuayu was delighted. The joy of seeing the opportunity to walk again could not be hidden in her smile and eyes. At that time, Nicole and Sink had arrived at the editorial office. She spoke up and said, young master, we brought the things. You've worked hard, open the box. A strange car was taken out of the chest, causing Nuayu to look at it with great astonishment. Lord of the City. This is. Here you go, sit on it and try. Nuayu was carried by her sister and placed in that strange car. She couldn't help but let out a surprised wow sound. Lu Feng spoke up and instructed the little girl, Nuayu, try using both hands to push the 2 wheels. Nuayu did as Lu Feng said. The wheel moved under the force. She cried out, ah, it's moving, Lord City Lord. Lu Feng laughed and explained, of course, this is a wheelchair designed for people who are not convenient to walk. Nuayu. Now I will answer the question why I chose you. The value of a person is not only shown in the legs, although you are not convenient to walk, but you have shown your value. That is much more wonderful than many other healthy people. A person with intelligence, even if his whole body cannot move, I will still hire him. Nuayu heard these words, her eyes lit up with emotion. She sat in the wheelchair, her hands clenched and raised, determined. I understand, Lord City Lord, I will definitely work hard and not disappoint the Lord's expectations. Gaba bowed and placed her hand on her chest in reverence at what Lu Feng had just done for her sister. Lord City Lord. Gaba thanks you for what you have done for Nuayu. I am willing to listen to any command you give me in return. Then you come to my mansion to work. I just happen to need a bodyguard. Mina will arrange specific work for you. Lu Feng took the initiative to make the request. Gaba immediately listened. A few days later, in front of the entrance of the Xiang City editorial office, Sink drove a carriage to bring Lu Feng and Mina. The city lord has arrived at the editorial office. Lu Feng was about to get off the carriage when he saw some kids running over and calling out, City Lord. He walked down followed by Mina, reaching out to pat each child's head. Everyone's here, come in quickly. The children were happy and blushed when their heads were patted. They answered in unison, yes, my lord. Inside the Western City newsroom, a tense atmosphere prevailed, and anxiety was evident on the faces of everyone in the room. Lu Feng just sat down and saw this scene, his face expressionless as he spoke. Raise your head everyone, I'm not eating people. I told everyone to come today because I have work for everyone. Hearing that, everyone in the room immediately breathed a sigh of relief, their faces filled with bright smiles. Lu Feng picked up a stack of papers with the 4 words Western Late Newspaper written on them and continued to assign tasks. He said that the main task was to sell these things, called newspapers, and there were a total of 500 copies inside. Each copy was sold for 2 yuan, and if everyone sold 1 copy, they could receive a reward of 1 yuan. Everyone in the room heard Lu Feng's salary, their eyes lit up. Some people didn't believe it and asked, selling 1 note is 1 coin, there are 500 notes here, so won't we get 500 coins? Lord City Lord, are you telling the truth? Of course it's true, Lu Feng replied, and not just today, but from now on everyone can come and get newspapers to sell every day, in addition. Speaking of this, Sink and his teammates brought in 2 large bowls filled with white buns, steam still rising from the air. They were steamed buns, everyone exclaimed, really, they smell so good. Lu Feng was now sitting at the editorial desk, his hands clasped together and leaning on the table. Standing behind him was Mina, he continued, from now on everyone's breakfast would be taken care of by the editorial office, there were plenty of steamed buns. Everyone in the editorial office was moved to tears, everyone's faces were filled with excitement. Thank you, Lord City Lord, we will try our best to sell out all the newspapers. Lu Feng heard that and immediately opened his hands to remind them, so what are you still standing there for? Eat first, it's not too late to work after you're done eating. Yes, the crowd replied in unison. On the streets of Xiang City, the sky was still beautiful today, blue sky, white clouds. Below the streets of Xiang City, the cries of newspaper sellers echoed down the road, selling newspapers here, selling newspapers here. The first issue of Xiang City, the city lord wanted to build a bridge across the Yutui River. The information on state management, interesting news of Xiang City were all in the Xiang City newspaper. The cries of sale attracted the attention of 2 people walking on the street. The girl turned to ask the boy, Lion, what is a newspaper? Has the city lord created something new and strange? The girl who just asked her name was Liga, Lion's future wife. He also turned to tell her. He didn't know the details, he only knew that it was a profession that the city lord had just created. Why not buy a newspaper and see? Okay, the pretty girl quickly responded. She called a child who was selling newspapers over and said, "Newspaper seller, here, I want to buy a copy, how much is it?" The boy recognized the girl and quickly replied, "Yes, Miss Liga, one bill is only $2. Liga paid the boy, then picked up the newspaper to read. "This is a newspaper, very interesting," Liga read and exclaimed, after Lion went to congratulate the deputy director of the police station and picked him up. The new and strange things seen in the past few months were more than in the past 10 years. At this moment, a prominent line appeared on the newspaper, building a bridge across the Yutui River. When Liga read this news, he immediately called Lion, "Lion, look at this management news, it says that the city lord wants to build a large bridge across the Yutui River. The Yutui River is so vast, how can a bridge be built on it?" Lion looked in and read the news. He raised his hand to rub his chin and thought, if he was the city lord, building a bridge across the Yutui River, it would probably be successful. Liga heard that and immediately sighed and said something that normal people would know was impossible. Then her attention was quickly drawn to another piece of news. She read it out loud to Lion next to her. The interesting news here was that Miss Ellie had more than 300 lollipops, many of which were limited editions, and the most expensive ones were 10 silver coins each. It was hard to imagine. Lion stood beside her, his eyes were 3 parts helpless and 7 parts indulgent, advising her, "I said it was interesting news, don't believe it too much." Liga heard him say that, her eyes looked at him deeply and teased, "So what, next time we meet I have to ask Miss Ellie." After that, Liga continued reading another news. Suddenly she exclaimed, "Wow, posting an advertisement in this newspaper for a day costs 50 coins, will there really be merchants posting in the newspaper? The city lord's price is a bit too high." Lion thought, maybe the newcomers to the western city who want to do business and have no reputation will think. Elsewhere in the western city, at Tori's ready-made clothing store, our Tori let out a sigh. Tori put her hands on the pink wooden table, leaning her face on it, sighing and thinking, business is getting harder and harder, she has reduced the price several times but no customers come, if she reduces it further she will go bankrupt. Suddenly, the familiar voice of the newspaper hawker rang out again, selling newspapers, the first issue of the Western City newspaper, $2 apiece. Tori heard and stood up curiously, is it something new that the Lord made? Tori quickly went out and bought, give me a newspaper. Yes, the day's $2, Tori handed over the $2 with one hand, and took the newspaper with the other. He picked up the newspaper to read, and quickly found a special content, oh, can I post an advertisement in the newspaper? But the price of 50 dong a day is not cheap. Tori thought for a while and finally decided, okay, let's take a gamble, with the lack of customers in the shop, it will probably close in less than 2 months. Very quickly after that, Tori went to the newspaper office. Tori entered the office and sat across from Lu Feng, Mina, and Nua Yu. Lu Feng asked directly, saying that Tori wanted to post an advertisement. That's right, Tori replied, the store's business has been sluggish lately, and even with discounts, there's no change, so we hoped the newspaper could help promote the store. Put 2 silver coins on the desk. Tori continued gloomily, the price is as the newspaper said, I plan to post it 4 days in advance to see the results. Lu Feng immediately responded, then asked Tori, no problem, do you have any advertising requirements? Tori scratched his face in embarrassment and frankly admitted, Mr. Lu Feng, this is my first time posting an advertisement for the store, so I don't know anything. Could you please help me design the advertisement content? Lu Feng did not answer immediately, he asked Tori about the shop's items, how much is the cheapest item in his shop? The cheapest item was 10 cents each, Tori immediately declared. Hearing this, Lu Feng immediately came up with an advertising plan. So the ad reads, the cheapest ready-made clothing store in Xiang City, Tori Ready-Made Clothing Store, how about it? Seemingly very satisfied with this advertisement title, Tori's face was beaming with excitement, this is good, as long as there are people who want to buy things, seeing this advertisement, they will definitely come to my store to see. However, Lu Feng's reputation was important in all matters, so he reminded Tori with a somewhat serious face. But I'll say at first, it's okay to write the advertisement like that. But our editorial office does not help others spread fake news. If your shop does not meet the requirements as stated in the advertisement, and does not have $10 clothes, the advertisement will be deleted immediately. We will also issue a notice and severely criticize your shop. Tori waved his hand and firmly affirmed, my shop is a trustworthy business. There is absolutely no way such a thing will happen. At this point, Lu Feng also temporarily believed what Tori said. He shrugged and sighed, okay then. Tori was satisfied and happily left. Lu Feng turned to remind Nua Yu to take notes. He continued, the same advertisement could only be published in the newspaper for a maximum of 7 days, after 7 days the price would have to be renegotiated. This ad would be published in the next newspaper's advertisement section. Nua Yu quickly wrote and did not forget to reply to Lu Feng's words. I wrote it down. Lord City Lord. The next day, Tori was still sleeping. Yawning. Strolling to the store. Suddenly he stopped and looked at the scene before him, unable to contain his astonishment. A crowd was tightly gathered in front of his stall. The crowd saw him coming. They couldn't help but complain a bit. "Are you the owner? Why are you here so late? Are you still selling? We've been waiting for a long time." Sorry to keep you waiting," Tori smiled awkwardly. She opened the shop and apologized. Behind her, someone folded their arms and announced their plans. "The newspaper said your clothes are the cheapest. I want to buy 2 new sets." The door to the store opened. Tori stepped aside and spoke. Come in. Welcome to the ready-made clothing store, Tori." As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd rushed in. The usually deserted little shop was now packed with people. There was even the sound of fighting. "Let me go first. I came first. Don't push." "Push what?" These words made Tori stand outside the door. His eyes and the surroundings seemed to sparkle like meteors. Tori cried silently. She clasped her hands together. She regarded Lu Feng as an idol who was shining brighter and brighter. Mr. Lu Feng had such a vision for business. As soon as the advertisement was released today, so many people came to buy it. This money was wasted. Thinking like that, Tori excitedly raised her hand, her determination raised to the highest level. She decided, after this advertising period was over, she would have to buy a few more days of advertising. The scene changes to the edge of the forest, under the blazing sun. A caravan of horse-drawn carriages is passing by. Sitting in the carriage was Princess Lucy. Even though she was sitting, her hands were still writing rapidly. Her eyes were focused, not paying any attention to the surrounding scenery. Suddenly the carriage stopped abruptly. The princess then looked out behind her. She asked her bodyguard, Jones, with a worried expression. "Why did they stop? Did the eldest prince's men come again?" Jones held the reins. He turned to answer. "No, ahead there was a caravan stuck in the mud." Hearing this, Princess Lucy breathed a sigh of relief. She went to see if they needed any help. "By the way, was this the way to Xiang City?" "Yes," Jones replied. Looking at her guard urging her horse on, Lucy suddenly thought back. If she hadn't gotten lost because her eldest imperial brother was chasing her, she would have arrived at Xiang City a month ago. Jones came to the stranded group. She got off her horse and asked, "Do you need help?" The others looked at her with wide eyes. There was a bit of surprise and they exclaimed, Human, or beast?" Then quickly corrected themselves. "No need." Seeing the attitude of those people, Jones was a bit unhappy but still remembered what Princess Lucy told him and continued asking. "So do you guys know, this road leads to Taeduong City, right?" The red-haired and brown-haired men heard Jones asking for directions to Xiang City and turned to each other to discuss in low voices. The blonde-haired man said, "So it turns out that the beastmen want to go to Xiang City. They met a few people along the way." "That's right," the red-haired man replied. "It seems that the news that Xiang City treats the beastmen very well is true. Then it is also true that there is gold everywhere in Xiang City. This time, he is going to make a fortune." The other two were talking enthusiastically, and finally only the black-haired man who was in the same group as the other two smiled and happily invited Jones. "That's right, we're also going to Xiang City. If you don't mind, you can come with us." Jones's face was expressionless but he politely replied, "Thank you." The merchants finally escaped the mud, leading the way while Princess Lucy's group followed. Jones returned to the princess's carriage and told her what the others had just said. Princess Lucy felt amused after hearing it. "Gold was everywhere, ha 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 ha. Impossible, but all along the way I kept hearing people praising how good the western city was, and I was getting more and more curious." Jones rode his horse with an expression that had not changed since the beginning, reminding Lucy, "I advise you not to think too well of it, to avoid disappointment." The two of them walked for a long time and finally arrived. As soon as they entered the city, Princess Lucy was surprised by the scene before her and exclaimed, "Wow! The western city was truly worthy of its reputation. Neat street planning, bustling commercial development, and peaceful coexistence between humans and beasts. This is the holy land of my dreams." Jones looked at the confused and sparkling eyes of the princess in front of him and was helpless, only able to say 3 words, "It's okay." Suddenly a sentence rang out, blowing away the excitement in the princess's imagination. "Is this your first time in the West?" Jones reacted immediately, quickly walking in front of Princess Lucy, his hand reaching out to shield the princess, his eyes looking forward warily. In front of them was a police team, and Fu Zi, who was leading the team, immediately reassured them. Don't worry, we are the patrol police of Xiang City. If you two have just arrived here, you can go to the hotel or rented room to register your accommodation. If you have any problems, you can go to the police station to find us for help. After finishing the instructions, Futu smiled brightly, his eyes curved into a friendly crescent moon shape and said, "Welcome to Taeduong City." Futu maintained his smile and raised 2 fingers in a farewell gesture. Princess Lucy also politely replied, "Thank you," while Jones just silently nodded. After saying goodbye, Princess Lucy turned back to Jones and exclaimed. The patrolling police officer was a beastman. I didn't expect that in the Western City, beastmen could participate in public security management. The Western City was truly not ordinary. Jones seemed a little excited. He wagged his tail and responded with an ah. Looking at Jones' tail, Princess Lucy's interest flared up again. She suddenly grabbed Jones' tail tightly, causing the leopard girl to jump. Princess Lucy held Jones' tail and said, "If that policeman said he had registered at a hotel, then let's find out where the hotel is." Jones turned back with a red face to remind the princess of her actions, for the 28th time this month. Lucy didn't stop. She moved closer to Jones, causing her to instinctively step back. Her tail was still wagging. Lucy put her hands on her hips and said playfully, "I also grabbed your tail when you were sleeping. Did you count?" The two finally ended their conversation and started looking for an inn following the instructions from the previous police team. The destination was the Drunken Tower. Lucy opened the door. It was a fully furnished room. From the bed, blankets to the desk, carpet. The window looked out onto the distant mountains. Everything was neatly arranged, making her sigh. She was indeed not lying to herself. I heard that the food at Drunken Tower is the best in the West. The interior decoration of the room is also very stylish. Lucy and Jones entered the room to examine everything more carefully. There was a piece of paper on the table. Princess Lucy picked it up and read it. Room service. Menu. Huh? The hotel also provided a meal delivery service. For a $1 delivery fee, the hotel would deliver the food to the room. How convenient. There was also a tour guide. Xiang City was located on the banks of the Ushui River. If you feel unwell, please seek medical help as soon as possible. Lucy wondered. If you feel unwell, seek medical help. Could the doctor here be some kind of shaman? Jones checked the cabinet in the corner and couldn't help but be curious after hearing what the princess said. Saving lives and healing injuries was the shaman's job. What it was called didn't matter. Princess Lucy frowned, her eyes showing a bit of sadness. She said, "Shamans can save lives and heal wounds. But why are there so many shamans in the royal capital? Yet the emperor still does not get better. The emperor is seriously ill, lying in bed suffering. But I am happy, traveling everywhere like this." As she spoke, Lucy cried. Jones saw this and approached the princess and softly comforted her. "Don't think so much." The king didn't want her to think about those things. She hadn't had a proper meal for a few days. "Let's see what's on the menu." Hearing that, Princess Lucy raised her hand to wipe her tears and softly responded with an ah, then the menu was brought up and read. "Oh, chicken head cooked with chopped chili, chopped boiled chicken, egg meatballs, all dishes I've never seen before. Or order some to try. Isn't the food here delicious?" Jones suggested. Lucy's eyes sparkled as she looked at the menu and made her decision. "Okay. Write it down. Tell them to bring food to our room. You've been writing for days and you're tired." After finishing the meal, Princess Lucy collapsed on the bed, rubbing her full belly. It was so delicious. No wonder Darlene and Katherine couldn't forget it. Jones was still sitting in the chair. On the table were only clean plates with no trace of food. She looked satisfied and agreed. Yes. It was delicious. Princess Lucy suddenly got up from the bed and suggested. She had eaten enough so she had some energy. She had been sighing on the way. There were many places she had not seen carefully. "Jones, let's go out now. It's also a good way to digest the food." "Yes," Jones sighed helplessly in response. On the streets of Xiang City, people were walking back and forth. Lucy and Jones were walking together. Lucy continued to praise. The Lord of Xiang City was truly a smart person. Although Darlene's products had prepared me mentally, when I arrived here, I discovered that there were more interesting things than that. Lucy stopped by a fabric shop on the side of the road. Holding the red fabric in her hand, she admired it. "This fabric is so soft. The color is also very beautiful." Jones immediately replied. "If you like it, buy it." But the princess turned back. Frowning and pouting, she said. "It's not like in the capital now. We have no income. We should save a little. Hearing that, Joan smiled and repeated. Why didn't she say that when she ordered? The princess couldn't refute what he said. She could only puff her cheeks in anger. Jones had no choice but to stop teasing. Fine. When the money runs out, I can earn it back. Princess Lucy suddenly felt sad and spoke. It's just that, Jones, I'm no longer a princess. It's a waste for you to follow me. Before Jones could say anything, Princess Lucy smiled and continued. I think the Western City is very good. It suits you very well. Your abilities are so good. You can definitely find a good job here. You should have your own life. You don't need to keep thinking about me. Jones turned back to look straight at Lucy. In the evening light, a few leaves were blown by the wind. Do you want to chase me away? Jones asked. Lucy waved her hand awkwardly, wanting to refute. I didn't mean it like that. It was just a coincidence that I saved you at first. You don't have to follow me forever. I don't have anything to pay you now. Before Lucy could finish, Jones turned away, not wanting to listen anymore. She just said. It was my own choice. She didn't tie me down. But Lucy was about to call Jones to continue talking. Then from behind a voice echoed. Then remember everything in the shop. I'll go back to the palace first. Lucy turned around and looked. It was Lelissa. Back to the mansion. Didn't Katherine say that Lelissa was a store employee? In front of the pizza shop, Lelissa raised her hand to say goodbye. The blue-haired girl standing inside the shop also raised her hand to say goodbye to Lelissa. Jones turned to Lucy and asked if she wanted to say hello. But Princess Lucy stopped and thought for a moment. It seemed that Lelissa had some kind of relationship with the Lord of Xiang City. The situation was still unknown. It would not be appropriate to casually reveal her identity. Finally she concluded. Get a clear picture of the situation first and then think about it. The following days, on a clear blue sky day. White clouds. The golden sunlight gently shines. Outside the Western City. On the banks of the Yutui River. Lu Feng was planning the next step with Mina. The bridge is finished. We can prepare. Young master, the loud call caught Mina and Lu Feng's attention. What's wrong? Lu Feng asked. Nyoda hurriedly ran towards Lu Feng. He had a bag of something in his hand. He said. This is something from the Yushui River. The bridge workers dug it up. We don't know what it is. That's why we brought it here for you to see. Nyodai opened the bag. Inside were filled with strange animals. This is a freshwater mussel. I didn't expect it to be here. Lu Feng looked into his bag and concluded. Then he said. Mina. Lend me your dagger for a moment. Mina gave the dagger to Lu Feng. He took a knife and cut a line into the mussel's mouth. He talked as he did so. Mussel meat could be used as food. I didn't expect there to be such a big one. A big one like this might have pearls. Lu Feng opened the oysters. Sure enough, there were 5 round pearls inside. They were sparkling white. Nyoda couldn't help but be surprised. Wow. This is real. Aren't pearls very precious? There are still many of them in the river. Lu Feng heard Nyoda say that and gave an order. There are many. Nyoda. You must immediately block the news. Don't let others know that there are clams in the river. Even more so, don't allow anyone to go down to the river to catch them. Nyoda immediately said loudly, Understood, I accept your orders. Western City. Outside the big market. A man in a luxurious black suit was about to enter the market when a boy approached him holding a newspaper. Sir. Sir. Would you like to buy a newspaper? The man in black was none other than Mr. Sharo. He picked up the newspaper. The newsboy immediately told him the special news. Besides, a new pearl shop called Tran Shao Kak had just opened in the big market. Go and see. Sharo felt quite interested. He entered the market and headed towards the place called Pearl Pavilion. Thinking as I walked. Let's go take a look first. Pearls are something that nobles really like. If the price is reasonable. No matter where they come from. I'll buy some and bring them back to the capital to sell. I definitely won't lose money. Outside the Pearl Pavilion, many people were already talking loudly. Princess Lucy 11 was still holding the steamed bun and looking at the scene in front of her, constantly sighing. Indeed, Xiang City is indeed a city of miracles. Let's go and see. If you like, then go. Jones replied. Inside Pearl Pavilion at this time, Lu Feng, Mina and Ellie were standing under the signboard. There were a lot of people inside. There were also a lot of wooden tables around. There were a lot of water tanks on them. Lu Feng saw that the room was already very crowded. He immediately said, "Pearl Pavilion is officially open today. Everyone can buy freely." Jones and Princess Lucy stood in the crowd, looking at the person who had just spoken. Lucy thought to herself. That was the city lord Lu Feng of Xiang City. He didn't seem to be anything special. A short-haired person in the crowd couldn't help but wonder when he heard Lu Feng say that. I understand the reasoning. But Lord City Lord. Where is the pearl? Another person agreed. That's right. That's right. I came here to see what a pearl looks like. Lu Feng smiled and reminded. Everyone, don't be in a hurry. He took a knife and cut open the oyster like the first time to show the Neo Dai group the pearl was inside. Lu Feng opened the oyster. He took out the pearls from the oyster and presented them to everyone. The people in the room couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Those little pearls? So this is where pearls come from. So white and beautiful. Lu Feng explained slowly. That's right. Pearls are born from oysters. But not all oysters can produce pearls. Moreover, the size, quantity, and quality of each pearl in the oyster are different. He placed the pearl in Ellie's hand so she could use a ruler to measure its diameter. Then continue to say, according to the difference of size, color, the price of jade will also be different. After all, the better the jade, the rarer it is. The pearl on Ellie's hand is 7 millimeters in diameter, relatively smooth in shape, with no obvious flaws. This pearl is worth about 50 silver coins. The people below heard Lu Feng's analysis, and everyone understood. Some even blurted out, wow, that little pearl is so expensive, and some people complained, they really wanted it, but couldn't afford it. Sharo in the crowd stroked his beard and thought to himself, so the grading of pearls is so meticulous. The pearl in Ellie's hand, compared to the market price, 50 silver coins is considered reasonable. Seeing the seemingly helpless expressions on everyone's faces below, Lu Feng smiled and announced that, apart from these, the second floor of Pearl Pavilion also had many other types of pearls, priced from 10 silver coins to 10 gold coins. Everyone could freely go upstairs and choose. Lu Feng said so, but there were still many people who could not afford to buy it. Some people complained, this pearl is too expensive, I can't afford to buy one in my entire life. That's right, another person agreed. So I prepared this for everyone. Lu Feng patted the wooden water barrels on the table. Mr. Sharo seemed to understand something. He asked tentatively, City Lord, is there a sun here? Everyone knows that suns come from suns. Could it be that City Lord wants to sell his sun to us directly? Lu Feng directly confirmed, it was still the smart Mr. Sharo. As everyone could see, in front of me were 3 boxes of clams. The box with the red string was 1 silver coin each, the box with the yellow string was 500 coins each, the box with the blue string was 100 coins each. Of course, the cheaper it is, the less likely it is to have a gem. Anyone who pays can choose one and open it on the spot. No matter what's inside, it's everyone's. Everyone was quite happy after hearing this. Some said, wow, this oyster is much cheaper than pearls. However, some were a bit hesitant, but the probability of each oyster having pearls and the quality of pearls cannot be guaranteed. If there is nothing inside, then wouldn't it be a loss? But once the gem is opened, then you will be rich. Jones also added, isn't that a gamble? The Lord of Taeduong City really knows how to play. Mr. Sharo stepped forward to start. City Lord, I'll buy one for 1 silver coin. Lu Feng accepted the money from Sharo and immediately agreed. Sharo received his son and immediately used a knife to open it. The atmosphere became tense. He slowly opened his son, and the people around couldn't help but look a little curious. The oyster was opened wide, and someone saw it and quickly exclaimed, this is a real pearl. The gossipers immediately started to talk, there are 5, I want to buy, I will buy one. Lu Feng looked at everyone fighting to buy and was a bit speechless. After buying, everyone immediately opened their pearls to check. Oh, I have 3 pearls. Damn, why is there nothing in this pearl? My pearls are so big. After opening them, everyone couldn't help but exclaim. Lu Feng continued to speak. In addition, open the bottle in Pearl Pavilion. We have a corresponding service. Everyone sells pearls directly to us. The staff will advise on the specific price. Large pearls can be used to make jewelry. Small pearls can be ground into powder. Lu Feng picked up a bottle of pearl powder to spread the knowledge. Pearl powder has the effect of calming and stabilizing the mood, beautifying, can be taken orally or applied externally. Someone below heard and felt a little doubtful. Pearls can also be used as medicine. I have never heard of it before. Is it a scam? Others heard what the other person said and spoke up to defend him. The city lord is not deceiving anyone. That's right. The city lord has very high medical skills. If he says yes, it means yes. Princess Lucy saw the argument and unconsciously raised her hand to her chin, recalling. Katherine had also said that this city lord had saved her life. I thought she was exaggerating. Could it be that this city lord's medical skills were really that high? The others continued to argue. One side objected. How could the city lord know medicine? The other side defended. Everyone in the city knew. The city lord had saved a dying man. A large tear had ripped through his stomach. Yes. Everyone knows. You should apologize to the lord. Lu Feng heard his defenders waving their hands. His face was somewhat helpless as he tried to explain. The wound isn't that big. No, I don't. Ellie standing next to him saw him like that and raised her hand and smiled slightly. Princess Lucy heard and immediately grasped the key point, can save a dying person. Jones standing beside her still firmly advised her that rumors were not trustworthy. But the princess turned back, her eyes filled with hope, saying, it's better to believe that it exists than to believe that it doesn't. Jones, you go and find out. If Lu Feng can do it, then the emperor will be saved. In the end, Jones had to compromise. She replied to Lucy with 2 words, obey. On the streets of Xiang City, the weather was still cold as the snow was gradually thinning out. People were walking on the streets. At a corner of the street, a few people were talking. A young man's voice rang out. Have you heard? The city lord has finished building a bridge over the Yutui River. The other person was not surprised. He replied calmly. Didn't you read the newspaper? The city lord said so. Tomorrow, on the other side of the Yutui River, there will be a ribbon-cutting ceremony. I plan to come a little early to reserve a spot to watch. There were still people who were surprised and didn't believe it. He said. Was this bridge really built? The green-haired young man said excitedly. If the Lord says it, then it must be possible. It was said in the newspaper. After the bridge is opened, the land on the other side will be reclaimed. The incentives are generous. I plan to come and register tomorrow. The young man beside me also agreed. Me too. I will go too. At this time, in the hotel in the western city, Princess Lucy was reading the news in the newspaper. She read the part about the bridge that was about to be completed. She said to the leopard guard beside her. Jones, do you believe it? The lord of this western city can build a bridge across the Yutui River. Jones coldly lowered his head and replied. Nonsense. Princess Lucy saw this and folded the newspaper. She smiled happily and said. This city lord is very different. Didn't she also hear about it? He really saved a soldier's life? The reporter's guard's attitude remained unchanged. He replied disdainfully. It was just a fluke. Who knows how trustworthy it is? Seeing Lucy turn her head to look, the stubborn guard looked at the princess and carefully reminded her, I admit. It is true that this city lord has some ability. But he is just an ordinary person. I advise you not to have too much hope. Lucy heard that but didn't pay attention. Then tomorrow we can go to the Yutui River to see. If he can really build a bridge across the river. Then maybe he can cure father's illness. Princess Lucy's face suddenly became sad when mentioning her father's illness and she whispered. If her father's illness is cured, then the fight for the throne in the royal capital will not be as fierce as it is now. Jones saw the stubborn princess and sighed. Okay, I'll go with you. Hearing Jones agree to go with me. My mood was good again, happy to the point of blooming. Looking up with sparkling blue eyes. My mouth exclaimed. Really? Then let's decide. Jones helplessly looked at the little princess who was clearly happy and thought to himself. Lucy, you are so naive. Fighting for the throne was something that was bound to happen sooner or later. If she didn't plan ahead, she would only be used by her brothers in the future. Outside the Western Ocean, on the Yutui River. The beautiful wooden bridge has just been completed, lighting up the whole river. In the bright sunlight, in the distance, there were mountains one after another, the river water was clear, the waves lapped gently. The charming river scenery made one write poems, seeing the bridge on the river with one's own eyes, people exclaimed. With this real bridge, the city lord had built a real bridge. A burst of hearty laughter rang out, one person replied, Ha, I told you that the city lord really built the bridge, yet you still don't believe it, then loudly said, Long live the city lord. Among the crowd gathered on the riverbank to watch the inauguration of the new bridge, Princess Lucy and her guards were also present. The princess covered her mouth in surprise and said, although she had a hunch that the bridge could be successfully built, the scale of this bridge was truly surprising. Jones looked at the bridge in front of him, still cautiously reminding her not to be happy too soon. The things that nobles do, whether they are sure or not, you have to go to know. Lucy heard this and laughed, replying, Jones, you have such a narrow view of nobles, not all nobles are like that. At least from what I heard and saw today in Xiang City, Lord Lu Feng is indeed a good and capable lord. Jones coldly looked at the somewhat naive princess and said, just wait and see. On the platform in front, the city lord Lu Feng was present to cut the ribbon. He said loudly, everyone, you can see the bridge behind me. Today is the ribbon-cutting ceremony for this bridge. Now I announce that the Yushui River Bridge is officially put into operation. Everyone has the opportunity to experience the floating bridge. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Feng took a pair of scissors and cut the ribbon once. The bridge was officially put into use. Seeing that, people immediately jostled each other and ran up, shouting loudly. I want to go, I also go. Lu Feng saw the large number of people who wanted to experience it, so he turned to the corps commander, Nyoda, and told the soldiers to pay attention to maintaining order and not let any stampede happen. Nyoda immediately received the order and replied. Yes, young master. Lucy and Jones walked on the bridge. Lucy looked at both sides of the river and said, there were rocks on both sides, steel wires and ropes combined together. Below there were boats acting as bridge pillars to support the weight. More than 100 people crossing at the same time would not be affected. This was truly a work of genius. Having said that, she thought to herself, even if we put all our efforts into it, it's unlikely we'll be able to build a bridge that's stronger or better than this one. Jones walked on the bridge and said in amazement, it was hard to imagine, he really built a bridge, maybe there was a way to cure the king's illness. Jones looked at Lucy with a wary gaze. It's not easy to meet this city lord. Our appearance was too sudden, and we didn't bring anything to prove our identity as princesses. It would be hard to believe if we just came to find her like this. Lucy's expression suddenly became worried. She replied, this is our first time in Xiang City, we are not familiar with life here, if someone introduces us as a local, then the level of trust will be higher. Then as if discovering something, his eyes lit up and he said, Lelisa. The sky was getting dark, lights were starting to appear on the streets of Xiang City, and there were fewer people walking around. Outside the pizza shop, Lelisa, who had just returned from training, was walking home. On her back was a bow and arrows. As she walked, she thought, the mission to train the assassin raid team would last until late at night. She also didn't know if the pizza shop was closed yet, she hadn't eaten anything yesterday. After saying that, Lelisa yawned tiredly. Seeing that the lights in the pizza shop were still on, Lelisa exclaimed, thank goodness it's not closed yet, I've been tired all day, the thing I'm most looking forward to is pizza for dinner. As she was about to enter the shop, a flying stone hit her foot. She suddenly turned around, glaring at the dark figure hiding in the alley and raised her voice. She shouted. Who? Come out. Seeing the other person running away, Lelisa shouted loudly, stopped, put down her bow and thought, is it another assassin sent by the bounty to assassinate the city lord? That group still hasn't given up. Thinking so, Lelisa immediately chased after him, raising her bow towards the dark figure at the end of the alley and shouting loudly. Tell me your identity, what is your purpose in breaking into Xiang City? If not, I will shoot an arrow. The dark figure slowly turned around, it turned out to be the Jones clan's leopard beast guard. She coldly replied, long time no see, have you forgotten me so quickly, Lelisa? Lelisa was startled and worried when she saw that she knew her name. But she still calmly replied, who are you? How do you know my name? In her mind, she thought, this voice sounds a bit familiar. The leopard guard slowly approached and said, long time no see, Lelisa. Lelisa suddenly recognized this familiar voice and asked, Jones, why are you here? But Lelisa's eyes suddenly sharpened, saying, no, hasn't she always been following Princess Lucy? The bow that had just been lowered was raised again towards the female leopard guard. A thought appeared in Lelisa's mind, before being saved by Princess Lucy, Jones was an assassin, could it be that she had left the princess and returned to her old ways? If Jones accepted the order to assassinate the city lord, with her strength, I'm afraid I alone cannot hold her back. Another familiar voice caught Lelisa's attention, put down your weapon, Lelisa. Lelisa turned her head. This voice was. Princess Lucy appeared and told Lelisa, Jones did not betray me. Going to Xiang City was my idea. She just came with me. Lelisa was surprised by one thing after another and asked, Princess Lucy, why are you here? Princess Lucy replied, Lelisa, I hope you can help me with something. Lelisa looked at Princess Lucy with a face of doubt and confusion. Inside the pizza shop, Princess Lucy was explaining to Lelisa about her and Jones's appearance in Xiang City. After listening, Lelisa replied, it's like this, Darlene and Katherine told you too about my situation in Xiang City. As soon as she finished speaking, Lucy asked, but last time I heard you say you were going back to the mansion, what's your relationship with Lu Feng? Lucy continued with a stern face, could it be that Lu Feng saw that she was beautiful, so he married her? Lelisa was drinking tea when she heard Lucy's words. She was so startled that she spat out all the tea she had just drunk. She stood up and angrily said, You misunderstood. Sir Lu Feng only helped me form an archery squad. Lucy was surprised by Lelissa's somewhat strong reaction and thought, why are you so agitated? While taking a sip of tea, Lucy said, this is good too. She followed Lu Feng. At least she didn't need to worry about safety issues. Lelissa realized that she had overreacted to the princess in front of her and bowed her head, saying, Sir Lu Feng treats me very well. Then Lelissa looked at Lucy with curiosity and asked, but why did she come to Xiang City? Did something happen in the royal capital? Or, those kings started targeting her since then because they wanted to fight for the throne. Hearing about her brothers fighting for the throne, Lucy's eyes suddenly became sad. She clutched her teacup tightly. Seeing Lucy's attitude become like that, Lelissa realized what she said was right. Lucy looked up and looked straight into Lelissa's eyes and said, the matter of the royal capital is not important. Lelissa, tell me in advance, is that city lord Lu Feng really that skilled in medicine? Has he ever saved a dying person? Lucy excitedly held Lelissa's hand tightly. Seeing Lucy's urgent attitude, Lelissa recounted that the city lord had indeed saved a dying soldier. This story was known to most of the people living in Taeduong City. Lucy heard that and breathed a sigh of relief. Good thing her father was saved. Hearing Lucy mention the king, Lelissa panicked and asked, Father, Princess Lucy, what are you talking about? Lucy sadly turned around and walked towards the window to look outside, saying, I really don't dare. In fact, my father is seriously ill, and no one in the royal capital can cure him. Hearing this, Lelissa worriedly followed and asked, do you want to invite Mr. Lu Feng to the royal capital? Lucy turned around, took his hand, looked straight into Lelissa's eyes, and said, that's right, I want to invite him to treat my father. That's why I need Lelissa to help introduce him. I want to personally invite Lu Feng. Seeing that this was an important matter that could not be delayed, Lelissa immediately agreed. Okay, tonight I will go to Lu Feng to explain the situation, and tomorrow I will take you to see him. Hearing Lelissa's agreement to help, Lucy jumped up happily, hugged her and thanked her profusely. The matter of going to see Lu Feng to see the king of the royal capital was resolved. Lelissa began to ask about her two younger sisters in the capital. Alright, how are Katherine and Darlene? Are the things they brought back selling well? I thought they would quickly return to Xiang City, but I didn't expect that after waiting for so many days, there was still no news. Princess Lucy replied, the shop that Darlene opened in the royal capital was very popular. As for Katherine, Lucy suddenly lowered her head and hesitated. Seeing Princess Lucy stop talking, Lelissa asked in panic. What happened to Katherine? Princess Lucy's eyes glistened with sadness as she said, my father is seriously ill. The situation in the royal capital is currently very chaotic. The princes are all secretly fighting for the throne. It is very likely that the Duke will marry Katherine to one of the two, the second or eldest prince, who has the best hope of winning the throne because of his army. As the daughter of a duke, this was a fate she could not avoid. As she said that, Lucy thought to herself, just like being a princess. Having said that, afraid that Jones would think she was upset, Lucy turned back to reassure the guard. Don't worry, I'm fine. But she heartlessly replied, I'm not worried about you. Lelissa had just heard about the royal family's situation in the capital. She frowned and looked coldly at the door, lost in thought. Those despicable princes were not good people. Katherine was my friend. I couldn't just watch her jump into the fire pit. I had to go to the capital again to save her. In the study of the city lord's mansion, Mina was excitedly telling Lu Feng, the young master. The bridge on the Yutui River was very sturdy. The people in the city flocked to experience the bridge, and they praised the young master for building the bridge on the river. Lu Feng didn't seem to care much about this matter. He asked Mina, how is the land reclamation going? Mina happily replied, people who wanted to go to the other side to reclaim land also rushed to register. Lu Feng replied with satisfaction. That's good. Lelissa's figure appeared from outside the door and walked in. Lelissa hesitated, Mr. Lu Feng. Lu Feng replied, Lelissa, why are you here? Is there a problem with the training? Lelissa immediately replied, City Lord, it's actually my friend who wants to see you. Lu Feng heard Lelissa mention her friend and asked in surprise, is your friend a new elf who has come to settle in the city? Lelissa's face suddenly became serious as she said, she is Princess Lucy. Of the royal family of Yinglu Kingdom. The two words princess made Lu Feng and Mina startled. Mina asked urgently, is it Princess Lucy who wrote the novel of a noble girl's love diary? Lelissa answered yes. Lu Feng immediately said, Lelissa, tell me clearly why Princess Lucy came to Xiang City. Lelissa slowly recounted the reason why the princess came to Xiang City. After listening, Lu Feng agreed to arrange a meeting for the next morning. The next morning at the gate of the city lord's mansion, Lucy and the leopard clan guards arrived, waiting for Lelissa to come out to greet them. Lelissa went to talk to Princess Lucy, but suddenly stopped, pretended to cough, and continued, Lucy, I'm here. She thought to herself, I almost revealed the princess's identity. Princess Lucy looked at Lelisa with a pure and gentle beauty and replied. Lelisa, I'm sorry to bother you. Lelisa politely replied, it's okay, let's go. Mr. Lu Feng was already waiting for her in the study. Princess Lucy suddenly noticed the group of people laughing and talking in front of the city gate. 3 people, 2 women and 1 man, were talking about something. The woman said. That person said that? The male guard immediately replied. Yes, yes. Princess Lucy looked at the guard talking happily with the 2 women in surprise. She turned to ask Lelisa. Them. Understanding the princess's question, Lelisa immediately smiled and replied. It's hard to believe, right? Here, as long as you finish your work, you can rest. You won't be treated like a slave. Moreover, if you're good, you'll be promoted. You'll even be able to go out and manage the store. Lucy listened and immediately exclaimed. It was truly unbelievable. Full of vitality and a sense of optimism. It felt completely different from the pressure in the palace and other noble families. Lucy thought to herself, then he must be able to cure father. A moment later, a girl's loud voice came from the study room of the city lord's mansion. Can't cure it. Why? Princess Lucy stood up angrily. Can't you save all the dying people? My father only feels dizzy from time to time. Can't sleep. Cough. Lu Feng saw Princess Lucy's somewhat childish and ignorant attitude and his face darkened without responding. Seeing Lu Feng's attitude of not answering her, Lucy continued angrily. Or are you afraid that it is inconvenient to go to the royal capital? I can guarantee that it is very safe there. As long as you cure father, whether it is a title or money, it is up to you. Hearing Lucy's somewhat unreasonable words, Lu Feng replied coldly. It's not because of these things. The king's illness is an old man's illness. He's old. His functions will decrease. It's basically incurable. Lucy heard Lu Feng say that and asked back. He's old. Lucy realized in her mind. That's right. Father is old. I've known for a long time. Even the best doctor in the royal capital can't cure him. How could he cure father in such a remote place? Looking at Lucy's thoughtful face, Lu Feng continued. A complete cure is impossible. We can only recuperate and perhaps live a few more years. Hearing these words from Lu Feng, Lucy was excited. How is the recovery? You will come to the capital with me. Help father live a few more years. Lu Feng calmly replied. No, I can't go. But I will give you some medicine and supplements. Just bring them back and let them take them on time. You also need to eat and rest regularly. Eat more light food. Princess Lucy heard that Lu Feng could not go with her. She said with a sad look. Is that so? Lu Feng continued. Wait 2 more days. I will finish mixing the medicine and have someone bring it to you. Lucy replied softly. Okay. Then I won't bother you anymore. Lucy said and left. Lelisa called out after her. Lucy. Wait until Lucy is out of sight. Ellie goes to Lu Feng and says, Young master, there is no way to cure the king. It's a pity, but this is also an opportunity. They are busy fighting each other. They won't have time to pay attention to this place of ours. Let's take this opportunity to develop. Lu Feng rested his chin in thought. He agreed. Until the new king ascends the throne and settles down. At least half a year. That's enough time. By that time the new king will not know what to do. Then that position should be changed to someone else. Outside the weather is warm, the trees on the mountains are starting to turn green, the scenery is beautiful. It was sunny but suddenly it started raining. In front of the gate of Xiang City, a carriage was ready. The sound of the coachman preparing to clean up the books mixed with the sound of the rain. Lelisa reluctantly held Princess Lucy's hand and said, Princess Lucy, it's been raining all day. Please stay here for a few more days before you leave. Lucy was also full of reluctance, sadly refusing Lelisa's good intentions. No need, I'm still very worried about father. Now that it's so hard to get the medicine, I want to take the opportunity to bring it back. Lelisa said with tears in her eyes, okay, then promise me, you will come to Taeduong City again. I can see that you really like this place. Princess Lucy smiled and replied, hee, I will come again. When that time comes, take me out. Jones walked over with an umbrella in his hand and said to Lucy, Princess, let's go. Lucy turned to look and replied, I know. In Jones' mind, he saw that it was time for the princess to leave but Lu Feng did not come to see her off. He thought, he really did not come. It was obvious that the princess had left his territory. Jones held an umbrella and helped the little princess into the carriage, thinking regretfully, what a pity, this time the time was too short. Next time, he would definitely have to slowly learn about this strange man. The carriage started rolling away in the rain. Lelisa looked after it and said, "Have a safe journey." Something appeared on the wall of the city gate that caught Lelisa's attention. She looked over and hummed. Looking at the code drawn on the wall, Lelisa exclaimed, it was the code of a bounty hunter. The rain was getting heavier and heavier. At the outdoor boatyard, Ellie was standing under an umbrella, observing the large boat in front of her. The giant ship before everyone's eyes had just been completed, its white sails spread wide. Lu Feng was standing observing this very large ship when suddenly a voice called out, "City Lord." Lu Feng turned around and looked towards the direction where the voice came from. "Oh, Vicey, building such a big ship, you've worked hard." The tall guy scratched his head and said worriedly, "I promised to do it. The city lord agreed to hire me to build such a big ship, that's my good fortune. But the big ships I built before, every time water got in, they would leak. Even though I used your blueprints this time, I still felt a little worried." The tall young man in front of me is Vicey, a shipbuilder from Taeduong. Lu Feng understood the shipbuilder's worries and patted his shoulder to comfort him. "I'm very confident in my drawings. Don't you have confidence in your skills?" The shipbuilder hesitated and said, I. As if empowered, he spoke loudly with determination, of course with confidence. His face lit up again. Lu Feng turned to look at the ship and said, "Then what are we waiting for, let's go." Vicey cheerfully replied, "Yes." The axe swung up, then chopped down hard, breaking the ship's anchor rope. The big ship officially set sail. Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at the majestic scene before them. The shipbuilder did not dare to look, clasped his hands and prayed, "Don't let it go, don't let it go." The boat in the rain raised its sails high and headed out to sea. Hearing a loud bang, Vicey opened his eyes and looked up to ask, "How is the ship?" Suddenly he was stunned, shouted happily, "The ship was not leaking, it was running, it was successful, we have a big ship in the west, ha ha ha." Ellie happily danced in the rain and cheered, "Great, it was worth it." Lu Feng stood to the side and breathed a sigh of relief. Looking up at the ship that had just completed its successful operation, Lu Feng said, "In this way, our western city's golden road on water has finally begun." Everyone boarded the ship one by one to tour around. Vicey pointed to each place and introduced, "City Lord, we are now on the second floor of the ship. This will be where the sailors will stay on the ship in the future. I have calculated, this ship can carry more than 200 people, if it is full it can carry double." Lu Feng looked at each place and replied with satisfaction, "Yes, that's good." Ellie looked at the narrow hallway inside. It was so narrow, staying here for too long would probably drive her crazy. Mina agreed, yes, the feeling was basically not wanting to be here. Vicey heard that and laughed, "Ha, Miss Ellie, Miss Mina, you two can rest assured, the city lord has thought of this before." Then he opened the door. As he opened it he said, "Normally sailors can live here." The door opened before the two girls. Ellie looked at the spacious room in front of her and said, "It's so spacious." Mina continued, "If so, it really wouldn't feel stuffy." The room in front of her had many tables and chairs neatly arranged in an open, airy space. Ellie happily walked into the room. Lu Feng turned and said, "Vicey, don't stop the shipbuilding work. I hope to launch 3 ships within a month. In the first phase, I need 18 ships of the same capacity and size." Hearing such a large number of ships, Ellie turned around and asked in surprise, 18 ships? Hearing such a large number, Vicey was also bewildered and replied, "My lord, this is impossible. With the current number of people, 1 large ship every 2 months is already the upper limit. Any faster, I'm afraid there will be mistakes." At the riverside of Xiang City, Lu Feng and his group gradually left the ship. As they walked, Lu Feng said that the manpower problem in Xiang City was still too weak. Looking at the strong current flowing in front of him, Lu Feng said, "This rain is not that heavy, why is the water level rising so quickly?" Ellie followed behind and said, "Nothing strange, it's spring already, the weather is warmer so of course the snow will melt into water and flow down." Lu Feng continued, busy building things, but did not notice that spring had come. "But, this water level is rising too fast. If not careful." Lu Feng suddenly stopped speaking and turned his attention to Nyo Dai in the distance. Nyo Dai was directing the shipbuilding workers. When he saw Lu Feng coming, he ran over and asked, "Lu Feng, do you have any instructions?" When Lu Feng saw Nyo Dai's question, he replied, "At this time last year, did Xiang City or the nearby areas have any floods?" After thinking for a while, Nyo Dai replied, "Our Xiang City has never been flooded before, but a few years ago, this time, the limestone city was flooded. I heard that many people died." Lu Feng immediately asked again, "So, how did the nobles over there arrange for the people in distress?" Ngudai shrugged inside, "Arrange, don't arrange anything. Having to encounter such a thing, everyone thinks it's their own bad luck." Lu Feng immediately spoke of those heartless nobles. His face darkened and he sneered, saying, "If that's the case then I want to welcome those people here." Lu Feng's intention startled everyone. Ngudai could not believe his ears and asked doubtfully, "City Lord, what did you just say?" Ellie and Mina said in unison, Mr. Lu Feng, do you want to save them? Lu Feng was surprised by the somewhat strong reaction of the three of them, saying, what's wrong, is it not allowed? Mina smiled gently and replied, no, we just thought that this was the true working style of the young master. Ellie opened her notebook and calculated a bit, then said, I will go arrange the ships now, so that the small ships can run a few more trips. Lu Feng heard that everyone was planning to use a small boat, so he said, that would be too slow, let's just use a big boat to pick up the refugees. This matter concerns the people, there can be no delay, let's do it quickly. Ellie, prepare enough supplies to go and supply the refugees. Ellie took the order seriously, just leave it to me. Lu Feng turned to Niu Dai and said, you choose 100 people, bring all the ships here, wait for the rain to stop and the sky to clear up, then go to the limestone city to save people. Lu Feng continued, like this, there will be people to reclaim the land, and the problem of shipbuilding manpower will also be solved. Ellie said worriedly, young master, what you and Vicey were talking about when you talked about building a ship just now was to tell you, the treasury of the western city is almost out of money. The cost of a large ship is really too high, if we continue to build it, and then we have to supply the refugees, I'm worried that we won't be able to provide enough. If Sharo and Darlene return now, we'll be much better off. But, there's been no news from them for a long time, I'm worried. Understanding Ellie's worries, Lu Feng interrupted, it's okay, I believe in Sharo and Darlene. If there's still no news after a while, I'll send someone to investigate. Ellie was still worried and wanted to continue speaking, but Mina interrupted, okay Ellie, the young master is here, don't worry. Being interrupted, Ellie angrily turned around, raised her voice, who cares, I don't care. Mina looked at Ellie helplessly, who said that just now? Ellie angrily shouted, she said no. At the same time on the river, the Yutui River, the wind was blowing fiercely, Darlene was leaning against the side of the boat, her brown hair flying in the wind. Her face was sad, looking down at the river. Darlene was recalling the conversation with Katherine before she left. At that time, she firmly said, no matter what, I have to try. I will go to Xiang City to ask Lu Feng for help, he will definitely help you. Breaking her train of thought, Darlene sighed, what to say to him, this is so awkward. Behind Darlene a man came up and said, Miss, the guys behind are still following us. Darlene looked at the ship following behind from afar and said, there's no way, merchants are sharks, they can smell business opportunities from thousands of miles away. Our perfumes and other goods are very popular in the royal capital, it's hard not to attract their attention. The mushroom-headed man looked at the group of people following and said, a bunch of people following, we can't lose them. Darlene sighed tiredly and said, normal merchants are fine, what I'm worried about is the people of the fourth prince, with such heavy killing intent, it doesn't seem like they're here to do business. On the boat behind, it was indeed the fourth prince's group, a group of nobles wearing evil armor. A blonde man looked at Darlene's boat and said maliciously, this is definitely the last time she will get to do business. Last time, she caused trouble, brought Katherine back to life and then told the Duke, almost causing me to lose my title. The fourth prince's close subordinate replied, she doesn't have many days of peace left, His Highness the fourth prince said, as long as we get the recipe for making perfume, we can do whatever we want with her. The blonde man was afraid that the other guy was blinded by hatred and replied, so you remember this. I'll remind you, the way to make perfume is the most important, don't be careless. The black-haired man immediately replied, I know, I also don't know if the Lord of Taeduong City will obediently listen, moreover, the people of the first prince and second prince are not easy to deal with. The blonde man said disdainfully, they're just a bunch of ruffians. Throw away the alcohol and they'll be in chaos by then. We need to focus on how to make perfume. As for that Lu Feng, lord of the city, Count Puli's 1,000-man cavalry will be formed soon, and by then, the west will be the world of the fourth prince. That Lu Feng wouldn't dare to refuse. The two ignorant people laughed excitedly and said, of course. Suddenly there was a sound, reporting, ahead is the limestone wall. The blonde man suddenly replied, oh, that was fast. Looking at the flooded city in front of him, the black-haired man said, but, looking at the situation ahead, it seems like there is a flood, hee. The entire city is submerged in water. The man in yellow turned around and replied, it looks miserable, but it has nothing to do with us, right? The two men laughed loudly and slyly. The scene in the limestone citadel was very tragic at this time, people were rushing to find high places to avoid the flood, the water was rising higher and higher. People were panicking, help, people were rescuing, holding on tight, be careful not to fall into the water. Suddenly a woman screamed, has anyone seen my child? In the rushing water, the child was struggling and calling out to his mother, mother, mother. Everyone looked at the child playing, and cried out, it's over, he's been swept away. The young mother's face was pale, she screamed in despair, my son, she wanted to jump into the water to save her son but was quickly stopped by the man beside her, don't act rashly, the water is flowing so fast, there's no way to save him. A tall bearded man was about to jump in, ignoring the shrill call from behind. Tucky. At this moment, the man dove into the water, swam over and hugged the boy, reassuring him, "Don't be afraid, it's okay." The boy was so scared that he cried and clung to his shirt. Before they could swim to shore, a huge wave hit the two of them. Everyone shouted loudly. It was bad, they were swept away. The man was still holding the child tightly. The two of them were hit by the wave and crashed into something. It turned out to be Darlene's boat. Darlene quickly threw the rope down, shouting loudly, "Hurry up." Two people, one big and one small, were pulled onto the boat and escaped the raging water. On the boat, the bearded man now thanked Darlene for saving his life. He said, "Thank you for helping. I am the Limestone Knight, Tucky." Darlene happily replied, "I am Darlene." "It's the right thing to do, Tucky, you don't need to do that." "Tucky, where is the lord of your Limestone City? Why don't you arrange people to save everyone?" Tucky bowed his head sadly and replied, he had taken his family and property and fled a long time ago. "I couldn't bear to leave the people here, so I didn't go with him. I just didn't expect the flood this year to be so terrible." Darlene smiled and replied, "How about this, arrange for everyone to get on my ship, I'll take them to safety." Having said that, Darlene turned to her attendant and told them to give the order to pull the boat to shore to pick up the refugees. The mushroom-headed man immediately obeyed. Tucky appreciated Darlene's good intentions and said he was very grateful, but he was afraid that her ship wouldn't be enough and might even put her in danger. Tucky said as he turned back to look at the people trying to stay on the wall. Tucky turned to point at the ships behind Darlene's and asked, "Darlene, are all the ships behind you yours?" Looking at the ships following behind, Darlene replied, "No, they belong to the nobility. For some other reason they've been following me." Hearing the two words noble, Tucky's face became sad and replied, "Noble?" Then Tucky suddenly stood up, turned around, picked up the wooden box and said, "Darlene, lend me a wooden box." Darlene asked in panic, "What do you want to do?" Tucky carried a wooden box as a buoy and jumped into the river. "I went to ask them to save people." Darlene replied, "I have a boat." On the ship of the royal prince's subordinates, the Jessie, there was a report, the ship in front has stopped, it seems to want to rescue those refugees. The black-haired Viscount leader replied emotionlessly, as expected of a woman, too soft-hearted. The blonde-haired man scratched his ear and continued, "What a waste of time, if we had time to save those people, it would be better to quickly return to Xiang City." Suddenly, a loud voice came from underwater, attracting the attention of the viscounts and lords on the boat. "I am a knight of the Limestone City. The Limestone City is flooded. I hope the lords will be compassionate and save the people of the Limestone City. Even a little food would be fine, please, my lords." The viscounts looked towards the direction of the cry for help and saw a man holding a wooden barrel. That person was the Knight Tucky. The group of evil people laughed loudly and said contemptuously, "Get lost, do you think our boat can take those poor commoners on board? If you want food, no problem, just bring money and buy it. Barley costs 2 silver coins per caddy. How about it, is it cheap enough?" Ha ha ha. Tucky gritted his teeth in anger for putting his trust in these human-faced dogs, his mind filled with hatred, thinking, hateful. Those nobles are getting more and more outrageous. Is there no good noble in this world? Don't worry brother, you will meet them soon. Seeing Tucky's life-threatening actions, everyone on the wall shouted loudly, "Tucky Knight, come back quickly, it's too dangerous. How can those nobles save us? Not everyone is as kind as to Darlene, come back quickly." In the distance, a giant ship appeared, attracting everyone's gaze. The crowd was stunned. That was another boat team is coming. Tucky heard people talking, turned around and looked, exclaimed, "That boat is so big." The ship cut through the waves and rushed forward, approaching the port of the Limestone Citadel. Darlene was also attracted by this unprecedentedly large ship, turning her head to see the red symbol on the sail. She recognized it and exclaimed, it was a ship from Xiang City. City Lord Lu Feng had really created a 50-meter large ship. On the big ship, at the bow, Nyoda and Avery were standing watching. Nyoda looked at the Limestone City submerged in the water and said, "There are really a lot of people. Fortunately, Lord Lu Feng told us to find Beifeng City to borrow more than 10 boats, otherwise this one boat wouldn't be able to hold so many people." Looking at the large number of refugees trying to hold on to the wall, Avery continued to praise Lu Feng's talent. That's right, it was also thanks to Lord Lu Feng's foresight. The Western Ocean ship docked at the city's port, lowered the bridge to shore. No Dai looked at the refugees and said loudly, "I am No Dai, an officer of Xiang City. Following the order of the Lord of Xiang City, Lord Lu Feng, I have come to rescue them. Everyone get on the boat, I will take everyone to safety." The people of the Limestone City heard that a ship from another city's nobles had come to rescue them, and they were making a lot of noise and chattering about the rescue. He said that a noble wanted to save us. Some people asked suspiciously, "Are you sure you're not trying to trick us?" In the midst of the chaos, a tall, drenched man hurriedly walked over. The refugees parted and said, "Make way, the Tucky Knight has arrived." As soon as the Tucky Knight approached, he said, "Sir, you just said you wanted to take us to safety." Nyodai seriously affirmed, yes, we can get on the boat now, we can also get food later, we will leave today when we are full. The refugees had probably been starving for many days. Hearing the word food, their eyes lit up and they jostled each other to get on the boat, shouting, what, there's food, I wanna go too. Nyodai was afraid that everyone would be in chaos and trample each other, so he quickly calmed down the hungry and aggressive crowd. There were still plenty of empty spaces on the boat, so everyone should stop jostling each other. Avery looked at the chaotic crowd, gritted his teeth in anger and was about to charge. The people were out of control. The Tucky Knight clenched his fists and gave orders, everyone stand still, everyone lined up to board the boat one by one. Didn't you hear what this lord said? There was still plenty of space on the boat. The refugees only then stopped, listening to the response, yes, yes. Seeing that everyone had calmed down, Tucky continued speaking, the elderly, children, and women came forward. Everyone told each other to obey Tucky the Knight. Nyodai saw that with just a few words, the tall man had suppressed such a large number of refugees, and thought to himself, this person has a lot of influence among the refugees, is called Tucky the Knight. Maybe he can introduce him to Lord Lu Feng. Putting all the refugees on the boat, the rescue boat team set off back to the Western Ocean. In Taeduong City, it is now spring, the sunlight is gentle and warm, in the blue sky, swallows fly in flocks. At Taeduong City's river port, the fleet of boats has returned, all the rescued refugees are crying with joy, eating perhaps the most delicious cake of their lives. The fleet of boats slowly docked, returning to the beautiful and peaceful Taeduong Citadel. Each architectural work of this citadel was truly beautiful, shimmering in the sunlight. Nyodai looked at everyone and said, everyone, in Xiang City, you don't need to worry about not having food or a place to live, but you have to pay with a certain amount of labor. The city lord has promised that as long as you are willing to work, Xiang City will support you. Furthermore, after the flood is over, if you want to return to the limestone city, there is absolutely no reason to stop you. However, during this time, I hope you will obey the law and not cause trouble, otherwise you will be punished without mercy. Tucky assured, don't worry, sir, we promise not to cause trouble. All the refugees happily agreed. Yes, we absolutely will not cause trouble. Long life City Lord Xiang, City Lord Lu Feng is truly a good person. Seeing everyone so happy, Ngudai let the boat dock and said, then welcome everyone to Taeduong City. Everyone on the lifeboat got off the dock and started moving into the city. The ship of the evil nobles of the royal capital has just docked. The viscounts put down their luggage, writhing their bones and sighing, they've finally arrived. The blonde man beside them also tiredly continued, that's right, because of a group of refugees they wasted so much time, what an idiot. Taking in so many refugees into the city, he is not afraid that those commoners will destroy his city. If there is a riot, it will be difficult for our plan to be carried out. The blonde man stood up straight and said sternly, to be safe, let's go see Lu Feng tonight and tell him to hand over the perfume business. The other man nodded in agreement, okay. From behind came an arrogant voice, I am here representing the crown prince, yet you have to let me use the same gate as the commoners. As expected of a lowly country noble. Appearing with those despicable words was a tall and thin noble, a subordinate of the first prince, Viscount Smith. While rotating the jade ring on his hand, a fat noble walked up to look at the majestic city. Answer, this is the Western City, the nobles here are quite capable. This fat noble is Viscount Kington, a subordinate of the second prince. The prince's subordinates looked at each other with contempt. The wind at the riverbank began to rise, and the people of the royal capital turned and headed in different directions into the inner city. In the Xiang City Lord's mansion, Nyoda returned from his mission and was going to report the situation to the city lord, Lord Lu Feng. This time, we brought back a total of 9,312 refugees, and have now arranged them to the rooms that Miss Ellie had prepared. After listening to Nyoda's report, Lu Feng said, pay attention to distributing food to the location, be careful not to cause a riot. In addition, find someone with special skills for Mr. Buff to register. Nyodai nodded and left the study. At this moment, Darlene came and called out, Lord Lu Feng. As soon as she arrived in front of Lu Feng, she bowed and said sincerely, I'm so sorry, I'm late. In the study of the Xiang City Lord's residence, Lu Feng looked at Darlene's hurriedly apologetic attitude. He laughed and said, get up, Darlene, I still have to thank you for helping me transport the refugees here. Let's do this, I don't need you to bear the money for breaking your promise, and you also don't ask me for the refugee transportation fee, okay? Darlene happily agreed after hearing Lu Feng say that. City Lord Lu Feng, then I've already made a great profit. The Chamber of Commerce definitely won't have a next time. Darlene lowered her voice and continued, that's right, City Lord Lu Feng, there's one more thing I need to apologize to you for. Lu Feng let out an O sound. Darlene continued, our shipment this time is very famous in the royal capital, there are many people targeting us, we have not lost them on the way. Among them are also 3 of the prince's lobbyists. I hope you must be careful, they all have bad intentions. As Darlene spoke, she remembered the prince's men who had followed her ship from the royal capital to the Western Ocean. Lu Feng understood everything after hearing that and replied, so that's it, you don't need to worry about this matter this time. I'm preparing to do something very big recently, so the more people coming to Xiang City, the better. Hearing that Lu Feng wasn't worried at all, Darlene thought sadly in her heart, does Lord Lu Feng have something big to deal with? Still willing to help us, but if he doesn't agree, then who else can help Katherine? Lu Feng was still talking about his plan, which might need her help at that time. Seeing that Darlene didn't seem to be paying attention, Lu Feng called out loudly, Darlene. Darlene suddenly woke up from her thoughts and let out a sigh. Seeing Darlene's distracted attitude, Lu Feng asked worriedly, what's wrong, are you not at peace? As if a knot in her heart had been untied, Darlene spoke up, Sir Lu Feng, there's something I want to discuss with you. It's about Katherine. The king is currently seriously ill, and the eldest prince, second prince, and fourth prince are all secretly plotting to ascend the throne. The three princes all have their own plans, and the forces in the capital are also rising up. Katherine's father is a duke, and he wants to use the eldest prince's power to force Katherine to marry the eldest prince. Therefore, he even keeps Katherine under house arrest. Darlene's voice suddenly became resolute, Lord Lu Feng, I am willing to not take the money from this division. I hope you can help take Katherine away from the royal capital. If she marries that fake prince, she will not be happy. Lu Feng heard the story and said, so that's how it is. He thought, in this era, there is still marital responsibility. Besides, if there is something like this, then it's okay to help. Lu Feng spoke up to comfort Darlene, reassuring her, don't worry, leave this matter to me, I will think of a way to get her out of the royal capital. As for the money, that's what you should have, don't say whether you need it or not. Darlene heard Lu Feng's assurance, happily thanked him, really, thank you Lord Lu Feng, I also thank you on behalf of Katherine. Outside the door, Ellie appeared and said to Lu Feng, young master, there are 4 people outside, saying they are the prince's messengers, wanting to see you. Lu Feng's face became excited and he said, come quickly. In the living room of the city lord's mansion, the atmosphere in the room was suffocatingly quiet. 4 people who claimed to be the prince's emissaries of the royal capital were sitting at the table, quietly thinking about their own thoughts. The skinny viscount was made to wait until he was frustrated and spoke up. It seemed that the etiquette education in this remote place needed to be retaught. The prince's messenger had been here for so long and no one had come to greet him. The fat messenger, the second prince's subordinate, also spoke, only a hypocrite would look down on such fake things. Hearing the sarcastic words from the second prince's subordinate, the messenger angrily shouted. He. Looking at the antics of the other 2, the remaining 2 subordinates of the fourth prince snickered. The door opened and City Lord Lu Feng walked in. Nicole introduced, emissaries, Your Excellency Lu Feng has arrived. Lu Feng looked at the envoys and politely said, welcome to Xiang City. Viscount Smith saw Lu Feng coming, his expression immediately changed, he said disdainfully, it seems that Your Excellency Lu Feng is very busy, he doesn't even have time to meet the prince's messenger. This is also the first time I've seen someone as bold as Your Excellency Lu Feng. Hearing those somewhat rude words, Lu Feng calmly sat down and replied, that's right, Xiang City's population is dense, there are many big and small matters, I usually wait until I have time to deal with my usual idle matters. The Viscount heard Lu Feng's indifferent reply and angrily thought to himself, dare to say that we are idle talk? Viscount Kington saw that Lu Feng seemed to look down on him, so he also replied, I see that although the walls of the western city are high, they still cannot block the cavalry's armor. Lu Feng saw the envoy's irritated attitude, and immediately laughed to break the tense atmosphere, saying, don't worry, the security of my Xiang City is still very good. It's just that occasionally there are a few rats that come to cause trouble. If you all just came to chat, how about we go to the drunken Shao Tower, this style is only to discuss official matters. Lu Feng's words were full of sarcasm. The crown prince's subordinate heard what Lu Feng just said, coughed a few times and struggled to contain his anger, saying, Your Excellency Lu Feng, I won't beat around the bush any longer. I am Smith, an envoy sent by the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince has promised that as long as Your Excellency Lu Feng offers the secret perfume technique to the Crown Prince, after you ascend the throne, he will promote you to a title, at least a Viscount, possibly an Earl. Hearing Viscount Smith's boastful words, Kington also quickly retorted, the one who ascended the throne was the second prince. The second prince had said that as long as he paid tribute with the secret perfume technique, when the day came to become king, he would at least be given the title of Earl. Hearing the promises of the 2 subordinates of the first and second princes, the subordinate of the fourth prince could not bear it anymore and stood up and said loudly, we, the fourth prince, can give you the title of Marquis. Hearing the lies of the 4 loyal bastards in front of him, Lu Feng couldn't help but laugh out loud. Viscount Kington asked, what are you laughing at? Lu Feng leaned back in his chair and replied, I see that you guys are probably still not awake, why don't you go back and rest first? Seeing Lu Feng's disdainful attitude, Viscount Kington angrily slammed the table, you say we are dreaming again. Viscount Smith also continued, if Your Excellency Lu Feng is not satisfied with the conditions I have proposed, rest assured, as long as you can offer the secret perfume technique, all conditions can be discussed. Not giving up, the fourth prince's subordinate also spoke up to negotiate. Yes, as long as you name a price, we can all buy the method to make perfume. Not wanting to hear more, Lu Feng coldly replied, alright then, if you are so sincere, looking at the people with sparkling eyes in front of him. Lu Feng gave the price, 300,000 gold coins, like a thunderbolt, turning the people in front of him to stone. One of them stuttered, 3.3 million gold coins, are you brain damaged? Lu Feng still smiled, ignoring the angry attitude of the people in front of him, and replied, whoever has 300,000 gold coins, I will sell the perfume method to that person. Viscount Kington glared, you're crazy, you don't want to sell at all, why don't you just rob the national treasury for 300,000 gold coins? Lu Feng answered the messengers without wavering, the listed price is clear. Before, you guys kept asking me to name a price, but now that I have named a price, you guys say I don't want to sell. I am an honest person, this price is still valid. If you have thought it through, then send someone to inform me. After saying that, Lu Feng stood up and left. Before leaving, he turned back to the group of people with dark faces and added, I see that you all don't have the ability to cooperate, please go back. Negotiate carefully with your master. I am the city lord and also a merchant. What I said was 300,000 gold coins is 300,000 gold coins. Viscount Smith glared and replied, if you change your mind, you can come find me. Viscount Kington also added, I advise you to wake up and see the situation clearly. Lu Feng didn't care about the other person's words, pointed to the door and said, please, no see off. The four princes' two subordinates also threatened him at this time. The fourth prince would soon arrive in the western lands. Don't overestimate yourself, or it will be unsightly. The four messengers finished speaking and left. Miss Darlene hurriedly ran over and said, what happened today? The three princes will definitely know, I'm afraid they will take revenge on Taeduong City. Lu Feng replied without any worry, revenge, even if those princes really come, I am sure I can handle them. Lu Feng turned around and continued, now it was her turn to help me. Darlene asked in surprise, I. The sun was already high in the sky, in the bright sunlight, on the streets of Taeduong City people were bustling, shops opened one after another, the sounds of people's activities were bustling. Darlene was holding Lelis's hand, looking at the delicious food along the street, constantly exclaiming, wow, I've only been gone for 3 months, and there are already so many delicious foods in the western city. Lelisa softly replied, following behind the two young ladies were two police officers accompanying and protecting them. In the cheerful atmosphere, Darlene saw that Lelisa didn't seem excited, seemed to be in the mood, so she asked, what's wrong Lelisa, are you tired? Then let's not go for a walk anymore, let's go home. Lelisa's eyes were sad, she lowered her head and shook her head, I'm not tired, just thinking about some things. Darlene asked worriedly, looking at her sad face, was she worried about something? Tell me, I've always helped other spirits, playing the role of a savior, but this time I've changed my identity, how does it feel? Lord Lu Feng infiltrated the enemy camp to save her, isn't that touching? Darlene covered her mouth and smiled. Lelisa immediately replied, I am very grateful to Lord Lu Feng, he not only saved me, but also saved my family. He even arranged a job for me, Lord Lu Feng is a good person. He is too kind, so I can't cause him any more trouble. Darlene held Lelisa's arm to comfort her. If he could keep her, he definitely wouldn't find her annoying. Don't think about anything else. Feeling comforted, Lelisa began to share her worries. Recently, I feel like there are a lot of bounty hunters coming to Xiang City, they must be targeting me. I don't want to see Xiang City in chaos because of me. At first, I accepted Lord Lu Feng's offer as someone who wanted to repay the favor of saving my life. Lord Lu Feng wanted a professional archery team, and I also fulfilled his wish. Secondly, I was also worried about the human race, wondering if they would be able to adapt to life in Xiang City. Lelisa lowered her head and continued, the archery team is currently operating very well, and the human race is also doing very well. If I were to cause trouble for Xiang City, wouldn't that be harming others? Lelisa said this, her eyes were already glistening with sentimentality, she bit her lip worriedly, and continued, I thought about it over and over again, only by leaving Xiang City can I preserve the safety of Xiang City. Looking straight into Lelisa's eyes, Darlene said seriously, no need, if she ran away, wouldn't that day have been busy in vain? Lelisa, surprised by Darlene's reaction, asked again, what was busy in vain? Suddenly the voice of a newspaper vendor interrupted their conversation, selling newspapers, would you like to buy a copy, miss? Looking at the stack of newspapers in the vendor's hand, Darlene smiled wickedly and said, I won't tell you, you'll know tomorrow. Then Darlene ran back to the newspaper boy and said, give me one. Darlene bought a newspaper and continued walking around the street with Lelisa. Looking at the newspaper, she exclaimed, wow, this paper is really amazing, it can get the news very quickly, this advertisement. The two people did not know that in the alley nearby, there was someone watching the two of them leave. Two bounty hunters appeared in the alley. The female, Red Plum, said, no, she has too many guards around her. I have no way to do anything, the male, named Hound, replied, I don't know what's so good about this elf. It's worth 1,000 gold coins, and it looks normal, so these people were the ones hunting Lelisa. The Hound continued to ponder, on the mission to write, capture her alive. I guess this elf might have some secret. Now seeing that the Lord of Xiang City is still spending a lot of force to protect her, maybe she used a secret in exchange for this protection. Red Plum said excitedly, the secret is worth 1,000 gold coins. Could it be some kind of treasure? The warehouse map says so. The Hound turned around and said, speaking of treasures, do you know there will be an auction tomorrow? Red Plum crossed her arms and said smugly, it was a waste of time. The advertisement in the newspaper already took up a whole page. Who in the Western City doesn't know about the auction now? But what use is knowing? We don't have an invitation. Only the rich get an invitation. The Hound smiled and pulled out an envelope from his body, saying, that's not certain. In another corner of the Western City street, Viscount Kington was listening to his subordinate's report. After listening, he replied, the auction is a good opportunity for me to show myself. In the drunken tower, two of the fourth prince's subordinates were sitting down to eat, their ears perked up as they listened to the two people behind them talking about the auction. One asked, are you going to the auction tomorrow night? The other replied, of course, it's the first auction the city lord is organizing. After the two left, the blonde asked suspiciously, auction house. The black-haired man chewed on his food while watching the two people's figures. In a shabby place like this, what good things could there be to auction? The blonde man agreed. That's right, but let's go and see what kind of farce they're up to. At the same time, at the Pearl Pavilion, Viscount Smith appeared with 3 large pearls. The owner of the Pearl Pavilion was introducing them. The largest pink pearl currently has a diameter of 14 millimeters, but it is not in our shop. If you want, you can come and bid at the auction tomorrow night. Viscount Smith thought in surprise, auction house, there is also an auction house in the Western City, but if it is a 14 millimeters pink pearl, it definitely cannot be missed. At night, under the bright torchlight, the corridor was packed with people. The atmosphere was bustling with chatter, so crowded. Were they all here to participate in the auction? Someone replied, you idiot, the auction requires an invitation to enter. The other person immediately wondered, so why did everyone come here? The other boy confidently said, of course we came to see the city lord. I heard that this city lord is extremely handsome, has a good face, and even gave us country people a house to live in. Of course we came to see him. A man spoke up to retort, what's so handsome about that? That's called handsome and dashing. Just by looking at him, you can tell he doesn't read books, making people not know either. Suddenly, a loud voice said, here we come, here we come. A carriage just arrived, everyone shouted, the city lord has arrived. Lu Feng got out of the carriage amidst loud shouts, it's the city lord, sir. Lu Feng was startled by the loud voice, city lord, thank you. Lu Feng looked a little embarrassedly at the people who were bowing. Mina saw this and said, young master, those are all victims from the limestone city. Maybe they want to take this opportunity to show their gratitude. Lu Feng replied, so that's how it is. Lu Feng turned around and happily replied, everyone, please stand up quickly. You don't need to do that. I guarantee you, as long as you don't commit any crimes in Xiang City and do good deeds, you will forever receive the protection of our Xiang City. Amidst the cheers of the people, the city lord is so good, long live the city lord. The faces of the 4 princes' subordinates were not very happy. The blonde-haired one said, with all this pretense and bragging, one day we will be able to deal with him. The black-haired one also added, when the 4th prince arrives, there will come a time when he will have to beg for mercy. Someone's voice rang out, guests, the city lord has arrived, everyone can enter. The 2 men just now also walked towards the door. The receptionist standing at the door immediately said, welcome, please present your invitation. The man in yellow walked forward and took out his invitation, saying to the black-haired man behind him, let's go, let's enter. The black-haired man held his head and said unhappily, what's the point of such a rule? A baron still wants us to wait, he can only enter after he arrives. The invitation card had not yet reached the receptionist's hands when it was stopped by another invitation card, accompanied by a voice saying, oh my, isn't this Jesse and Cohen John? You two are here to watch the fun too? But participating in a small auction, even a good seat is not worth 2 gold coins. It is really difficult for everyone, following a prince with unrealistic dreams, and not giving you any face. Cohen John was surprised and said, Viscount Kington. The receptionist received the 2 invitations and bowed her head gently, please come in. Jesse growled angrily, he was about to do something. But Cohen John stopped him and said, don't rush, we'll find another opportunity later. Viscount Kington, seeing that he had angered the other 2, was delighted with the great door. As he walked, he looked around and commented on the decoration. It was not very nice. He looked at the far row of seats and exclaimed in surprise, Viscount Smith. He approached, his voice full of sarcasm saying, oh, the dignified Viscount Smith has to sit in the back. Viscount Smith was equally surprised to see him appear and stood up saying, Kington. Viscount Kington sarcastically said, sitting so far away, we won't be able to see the items later. Do you want to come sit in the front with me? Without waiting for the other party to reply, he turned around and continued, oh my god, look at my memory. I almost forgot, Viscount Smith's family's wealth is not abundant, he can't sit in such a good position, I'm so rude, I'm so rude. Viscount Smith was so insulted that he was speechless, he could only say, Mr. Looking at Kington's proud back, Viscount Smith quickly explained to save his last bit of honor, it was just that I was late and couldn't get a seat in the front. Lu Feng had been standing on the second floor, looking down at the antics of the two Viscounts, and smiled faintly. Ellie turned to look at Lu Feng and said, Young master, our plan has succeeded. Those nobles are extremely angry, when they make a bid later, the money will definitely be a lot. Lu Feng rubbed his head and praised in satisfaction, haha, it's all thanks to Ellie. Mina stood to the side with her eyes wide open and surprised, plan, what plan? Lu Feng looked down and replied, actually there was nothing, she looked. Looking at the guests entering the hall, whispering and discussing. Why is the seat in the last row? Someone was surprised. Huh? Why am I in the back? Who would be willing to change seats with me? Can I pay? Cursing, damn it, I'm sitting further away than that guy, what kind of work are you doing, buying me a seat this far away? The atmosphere below was very noisy and bustling. Lu Feng continued, these so-called nobles were all people with pride, and these people came from the same place, very familiar with each other, it was inevitable that they would be petty. Ellie's plan was to divide the auction house seats according to the rank area, and based on the amount of money spent. This inadvertently created a competition among those people. The loser this time will definitely think of a way to regain face next time. And the winner last time will also think of a way to continue winning, so the auction price will naturally increase a lot. Ellie was praised, so pleased that her nose grew longer. Mina looked at the nobles competing with each other below and replied, oh, so that's how it is. Lu Feng happily continued, let's see how much income these angry nobles can bring to our western city. Hopefully, there won't be too many noble merchants in the royal capital. In the drunken Xiao Tower, Xiang City, is the place where the auction organized by Lu Feng is taking place. Standing on the stage was Darlene, looking at the guests who had settled down below. She said, welcome to the first Western City auction, I will be the host of this auction, Darlene. Now let's invite the first auction item. A black-robed long-haired noble holding a cup of hot tea said disdainfully, a small city, what good things could there be, if I wasn't free, I wouldn't bother coming. The female auctioneer began pushing the cart to bring out the first auction item. Darlene excitedly introduced, limited edition perfume from Xiang City, only 7 bottles per year, starting price is 100 gold coins. Hearing the price of the perfume, the nobles below were so surprised that they choked on their water. The fourth prince's blonde subordinate was surprised and said, does that Lu Feng know how to organize an auction? His Western City perfume is the most valuable item, and yet the first product has already been put up, what else is behind it? Jesse immediately shouted, shut up, don't you see what's holding the perfume? The blonde man opened his eyes wide and observed, stuttering, that is, a glass bottle, a priceless glass bottle. On the podium, the perfume and the golden glass bottle shimmered under the magical shimmering light. The purple-clothed noble saw the perfume bottles and exclaimed excitedly, perfume is stored in glass. The long-haired noble beside him immediately replied, this is not an ordinary glass bottle. Have you ever seen a good quality glass bottle? Moreover, the design is very beautiful. Even if you sell just the bottle, it will be very expensive. The crowd below was in an uproar. The man in purple continued, so this western city has some good stuff. The first person to bid was 200 gold coins. Viscount Smith bowed his head in thought and said, this auction, perhaps something very big will happen. The official auction began in the hall, only the sounds of fierce bidding remained. You bid 200 yuan and you don't feel embarrassed, I'll pay 201 yuan, get lost, aren't you embarrassed, 500 yuan. 600, I want this, for sure. Another person spoke up, I'll pay 800, don't even think about fighting with me. Darlene looked at everyone's continuous bidding and said, number 29 bid 800, is there anyone higher? Seeing the bidding was very lively, Ellie excitedly said loudly, it only stopped at 800, do you know how to look at the goods? There was a voice asking for more, I offered 900. Ellie continued, only increased by 100, embarrassing, get out of here. In the front row was Lelisa, sitting next to her was Ellie. Lu Feng and Mina sat on the same seat, hugging each other affectionately. Mina put her hand on her chest and leaned against Lu Feng's chest, asking, why do the people of the royal capital all know that there are good things in the western city today? Will they not stop visiting the young master in the future? The bidding for the perfume bottle stopped at 900, Darlene said happily, 900 gold coins, congratulations to this customer, now we would like to offer the next product. Hearing the price was too low, Ellie was extremely angry, looking at the big-faced and big-eared person, he didn't even increase it a little, it's really a bargain for you, humph, the crowd below was still whispering and discussing. Lu Feng rubbed the little cat Mina's head in his arms, comforting Ellie, saying, don't bother with those random people, with such free time, I'd rather play with you guys. Mina shyly rubbed against Lu Feng's chest and said coquettishly, young master. Then Lu Feng turned his head and changed his mind, but the people who were invited to the dinner party after the auction have all arrived, so we can go and meet them for a while. Mina was surprised to see that Lu Feng changed faster than his ex-lover. Mina said angrily, talking about this makes me angry. They dare to laugh at the young master, saying that the young master invited them but they wouldn't go. It makes me so angry, I really want to go and beat them up. Seeing Mina's strong reaction, Ellie laughed out loud, ha, by then, I'm afraid there will be many people who will ask for help, but they will have to look at the young master's expression. The young master comforted Mina, okay, people with narrow vision like them, we don't need to care. Lu Feng turned his head to look at Lelisa who had been silent all this time, and called out. She quickly replied, yes. Lu Feng told her, weren't you always worried about the bounty on your head? If I stay here today, it will cause the bounty to be invalidated. Hearing Lu Feng say that she was surprised and asked again, lost effect. Ellie brought a large box with many glass bottles inside, and said to Lu Feng, young master, everything is ready. Looking at the various shaped glassware in the crate, Lelisa wondered. This is. Lu Feng took out an envelope, gave it to Lelisa, and instructed her to read this after she went on stage. Remembering what happened the other day on the street, when they were walking together, Darlene once said, she won't tell her, she will know tomorrow, when the time comes, don't be too emotional. Lelisa understood secretly, so that's it. Lelisa panicked and waved her hands in refusal, no, Lord Lu Feng, these glassware are too valuable, the reward for my capture is only 1,000 gold coins. Lu Feng hurriedly comforted Lelisa who was stubbornly refusing, Lelisa, listen to me, the value of these items, in my opinion, is not worth mentioning compared to your safety. Lu Feng thought to himself, the archery team can't leave her alone. Then he continued, moreover, I originally planned to sell these things. If I can sell them for money and at the same time exchange them for her safety, then it would be killing two birds with one stone. Hearing Lu Feng's words, Lelisa's eyes widened, feeling very touched. Lu Feng pretended to sigh in disappointment and said, if you don't want to then my efforts would have been in vain. Everyone also added and advised Lelisa. Mina said, that's right Lelisa, the young master has been working very hard these past few days. Ellie encouraged, don't worry anymore, moreover, although these things are very expensive, but our city still has a lot of them. Lelisa heard everyone worrying about her, moved to tears, bowed her head and said, everyone, okay, you don't need to say anything more. I agree, everyone was happy. Mina turned to Lelisa and said, quickly memorize those lines. Ellie also agreed and added, yes, we have to go on stage soon. Lelisa smiled gently and replied, I know, I will go memorize it right away, Lord Lu Feng. Lelisa closed her eyes and turned her face away, sulking as she said to Lu Feng, everyone is very good, it's just that they like to take detours, it's not good. Lu Feng was surprised by Lelisa's sulky attitude, and said in surprise, huh, what do you mean? Lelisa smiled and said mysteriously, you guess. On stage now, Darlene introduces everyone. Next is the 31st auction item. This auction item is a bit special, so we need to change to another MC. After a short while, it was already the 31st product. The guests below were suddenly talking about it. Seeing this, Han said, changing people, is there still a need for people in an auction? Red Plum sadly said, never mind, if I can't buy perfume, I don't have the energy to pay attention to anything else anymore, hoo-hoo. The people below were still talking excitedly. It seemed that the next item to be sold was really special. Could it be that there were still treasures in Xiang City that had not been taken out? Lelisa confidently walked out, saying as she walked, everyone, I am Lelisa, a spirit. I also have another name, By-haired Demon Girl. Someone asked, By-haired Demon Girl, who is she? Someone said loudly, oh my god, so it's By-haired Demon Girl, the spirit that led to the death of a Grand Duke. The name By-haired Demon Girl struck a few people like thunder. Loud voices rang out from the hall. What? Was she the spirit that had caused the royal capital to be restless a few years ago? Yes, it was her. It was By-haired Demon Girl who had a reward of 1,000 gold coins for her capture. What was this girl planning to do? The entire hall raised their heads to look at the elf girl before them. The boy with the hound scarf calmly reassured, calmly take a look first, hopefully nothing unexpected will happen. Lelisa looked at the bustling crowd below and said, you must be very curious, why did I come forward and declare my identity? Why was I offered a reward of 1,000 gold coins? Because I had obtained information worth tens of thousands of treasures. Another piece of information caused a stir. People below were shouting, what? Worth tens of thousands. Some people said, no wonder, a reward of 1,000 gold was also appropriate. Lelisa continued, today, those treasures have been taken into my hands. Lelisa turned to the mysterious large box and introduced, today, I will take out those treasures and sell them at auction. The nobles below began to talk excitedly. Quickly, take it out and show me what kind of treasure is this that is worth tens of thousands. The big box was opened, everyone exclaimed, wow, it's glass, so much. It's definitely a treasure. Lelisa placed the glassware on the table. Immediately everyone below started bidding. I offered 2,000 gold coins, 5,000 gold coins, 1 million gold coins. Behind the curtain, Ellie happily said to Lu Feng, we succeeded. Lu Feng happily replied, of course. Lu Feng turned around and told Ellie, tomorrow write about this in the newspaper, we must publicize it. Ellie received the order, yes young master. The two bounty hunters said angrily, as soon as this news came out, the bounty organization would no longer reward her. Damn it, our efforts were in vain this time. The two men sighed and left the auction. The auction ended late at night. Under the bright moonlight, the city lord's mansion appeared majestic. There was a party celebrating the successful auction. Everyone cheered and said congratulations on the successful auction. They drained their glasses. The sound of the wine glasses clinking together added to the cheerful atmosphere of the party. In the dining room, everyone was eating happily and friendly. On the table were colorful and attractive dishes. Surely the person who prepared these dishes was none other than Nicole. Ellie stood up and cleared her throat to speak. Everyone listen to me. Do you know how much money we made from this auction? Everyone was surprised and asked, how much, we don't know. Dees munched on bread and listened with wide eyes. Slamming the glass of red wine on the table, Miss Darlene replied, 13,000 gold coins, right? Ellie was surprised that Darlene had said the exact number. Shocked, she said, how did you know? I thought I was the only one who knew. Darlene smiled and replied, I was hosting the auction anyway, so it was only natural that I would remember these numbers. Ellie said unhappily, hatefully, originally intending to show off. Nicole heard the huge number, her mouth opened in surprise, a lot, that much? Lu Feng replied with satisfaction, it's okay. Adding the 10,000 gold coins that Darlene got for us in the royal capital, we already have more than 20,000 gold coins. It's considered okay. As Lu Feng spoke, he used a knife to cut the tender beef soaked in sauce. Ellie raised her hand and said excitedly, hoping that a big ship would only cost 50 gold coins. By then, we could fill the ship at the western port, and it wouldn't be a problem anymore. Lu Feng stood up and continued speaking ambitiously. Now that we have a large amount of money and a large amount of manpower from providing aid to refugees, it's time to develop and strengthen the West once again. After Lu Feng finished speaking, Miss Darlene asked, did Mr. Lu Feng notice anything new? Ellie asked Lu Feng, what should we do now? Lu Feng held up 3 fingers and said, next, we have 3 main options. First, using the bamboo outside the city, complete the water project of the western city through the waterfall outside the city. Second, make every effort to develop the mountainous area outside the Western Ocean, where there are many resources that need to be exploited and developed. Third, we must increase trade with the tribes on the steppe. In the future, our population in the Western Ocean will increase rapidly, so we must ensure some necessary necessities. After listening to Lu Feng's plan, Kelly wondered, what is tap water? Lu Feng calmly replied, it's a type of irrigation project. Once it's completed, our family will have plenty of water to use in the future, and we won't need to arrange for someone to carry water every day. Darlene looked unhappy and sighed, is there no new cooperation with our association? Lu Feng smiled and replied, yes, that needs long-term planning. I will tell you more details later. Lu Feng picked up his glass of wine, the main thing tonight was still to celebrate. Everyone raised their glasses high, Lu Feng said, okay, for the long-term prosperity of Xiang City, let's drink up, everyone drink up. The party ended after midnight. In the dining room, Nicole was cleaning the dishes, saying, okay, let's clean up. Ellie held a piece of bread and put it on the tray, saying, Nicole, leave me some food. Her voice was spoiled. Lelisa stood in a corner, holding a glass of wine in her hand, deep in thought. Darlene came closer and said, oh, this western wine is really great. It's been a long time since I've had such good wine. That's right, Lelisa, I haven't asked you yet, do you still want to go now? Lelisa bowed her head and replied, she won't go for now. Hearing Lelisa say it was just temporary, Darlene thought everything was fine, and said in shock, temporary, she still wanted to go. Looking at Lu Feng and his group sitting at the dining table, Lelisa slowly said, Mr. Lu Feng's plan could only temporarily lure the bounty hunters away. He also knew that it was just a delaying tactic. As long as the bounty hunter finds that the bounty has not been cancelled, they will surely return. But, I have to leave, it's true that I'm a bit reluctant. Strangely, the last time I had similar feelings, was when I left my hometown. Hearing Lelisa's words, Darlene asked, was she reluctant to leave Xiang City or was she reluctant to leave Lu Feng? Lelisa lowered her head and replied, I don't know either. But I know that Lu Feng has thought a lot and done a lot for me. Surprisingly, I have a very reassuring feeling. Darlene suddenly asked, reassured, isn't it the feeling that she was moved, excited, and couldn't help but want to rush into the other person's arms? Darlene's face excitedly rushed over to ask, which I of hers saw that? Lelisa answered shyly. Lelisa, who was holding the book and wearing glasses, became serious. That's what Lucy's book said. Lelisa was so angry that she was fuming. Her face was still red with embarrassment. Lelisa replied, speaking of Lucy, she didn't know how she was doing in the royal capital. Darlene agreed and replied, that's right. At the same time, at the Crown Prince's mansion in the Yinglu Kingdom, the lights were still on. The Crown Prince was sitting at the dining table, his face dark, angrily asking, still haven't found it yet. The subordinate below was kneeling down to report, Your Highness, with the protection of the cunning beastmen, it is indeed very difficult to find their whereabouts. The Crown Prince slammed his wine cup on the table and said, I have underestimated her, I never thought she would dare to abandon her status as a princess to run away from the royal capital. Pass down the order, watch over the nobles living in the royal capital, now that Brat and I are fighting for the royal capital, I don't want anyone to join that brat anymore, nor do I want anyone to come into contact with that slut anymore. Understand? The subordinate immediately replied, understand. The subordinate left, the first prince turned towards the window to look at the darkness outside, suddenly a voice said, is the first prince okay these days? The Crown Prince turned his head and glanced, saying, it's you again, you guys appearing, it's not a good thing. A mysterious person with a hood over his head appeared, smiling wickedly and saying, hee, I thought the Crown Prince would be looking forward to seeing us. The Crown Prince coldly snorted and said, if you don't come to collect your money, I really want to meet you. Tell me, the spy last time asked me for 1,000 gold coins, and the noble who wanted to betray me last time asked me for 2,000 gold coins. What news do you want to sell this time? How much do you want? The other guy immediately replied, Your Highness, I don't need money this time, and I won't need money in the future. I'm here on behalf of the sect leader to discuss cooperation. The Crown Prince exclaimed, this person took off his hood and said, let me introduce myself, I am the third deacon of the main god sect. Hearing his introduction, the prince thought to himself, wait, isn't he a servant beside his father? Could it be? Then he replied, my lord, what is that? The other person slowly explained, the Catholic Church is an organization that worships the founder Father Lomistro as its chief deity. Our purpose is to seek the grace of the priest, so that we can enter heaven and live forever. From now on, we will help His Highness the Crown Prince ascend the throne. You just need to sit on it, and when the country is unified, allow us to build a church in each city to spread the grace of the gods. That ambitious person said. The king frowned in surprise and said, is it that simple? The white-haired man raised his head and said, simply. His face held many hidden meanings. The next morning, against the blue sky, white clouds, and golden sunshine, a pure white dove spread its wings and flew above Blackwater City, carrying a letter from Western Ocean City. A few feathers fell down. True to its name, everything in this citadel is dark in color, and the houses are built to float on the water. At the gate of Blackwater City, Nyo and his group were holding a letter that had just been delivered by a pigeon. The letter said that the young master would come to Blackwater City today. The Blackwater City lord walked behind and replied that it was fine as long as they could catch up. Looking at the pigeon perched on Gunga's shoulder, then looking at the letter, he thought, is this a carrier pigeon? There are really a lot of new toys in Taeduong City. Then he stepped forward and asked Nyo, that's right, Mr. Nyo, how's my daughter in Xiang City? Seeing the city lord's concern and concern for his daughter, Nyo happily replied, Miss Huron is studying state management in Xiang City. City Lord Binsai, rest assured, Miss Huron is living very well. The city lord replied shyly, no, I mean, nothing happened between my daughter and city lord Lufeng, what could happen? Nyo replied, Miss Huron has always followed the young master to study, recently she can handle some important matters by herself. City Lord Binsai, you want to know these things? Oh, that's right. The Blackwater City Lord did not hear what he wanted to know. He angrily clenched his fists and thought to himself, daughter, you have to work hard. A talented person like City Lord Lufeng, if you don't hold on tight, it will be easy for someone else to snatch him away. This old man is really ambitious. The land ahead was filled with the sound of horses and the flying dust. Nyo told everyone that the beast tribe had arrived and that they should prepare to welcome them. The sound of the horses began to fade. Nyo spoke, wait, it seems they have stopped. The leader girl's voice was loud, stationed in place. A follower behind said, Princess, aren't we going into the city? The head of the beast guard, Shilua, turned around and shouted, shut up, just a small baron. The princess personally coming here at a disadvantage is already a huge concession. Humans are sinister and very cunning. If the princess enters the city, who will be responsible for anything that happens? Shilua thought with a serious face, what kind of work did the night guards do while he was away, letting humans into the tribe? If the humans had bad intentions, the princess would be in danger. The princess of the beast race gave the order, just stay alert as usual, there is no need to go too far to make enemies. Since the Lord of Xiang City has agreed to proactively come to us to express his intention to cooperate, then we should not let the relationship between the two sides become tense. Today, no matter what the outcome is, at least we cannot let the other side make enemies with us. Also, don't call me princess later, just call me leader. Shilua thought to himself, just a baron, no matter how big the business deal is, the princess is too easy to negotiate with. But he still answered, yes. Shilua continued, leader, how about I send a squad of cavalry over there to show off my might to the enemy? At that time, it will also be convenient to establish home advantage, and when cooperating, we can offer more favorable conditions. Hearing Shilua's opinion, the princess agreed. Okay, remember not to be too harsh. Then remember to invite the leader of that side to attend the banquet tonight, see how sincere they are. Shilua approved the idea, excitedly replied, clear. Shilua led the beastmen and gave orders, about 10 people go for me. Go. The horse's neighing stopped for a moment and then started again, clop clop, clop clop, clop clop. Seeing this, Niowu said, this is it, they split into a small team and came here, it seems they have no intention of slowing down. The city lord was worried. What do they want to do? The old city lord worriedly grabbed Niowu's hand and said, young master Niowu, how about we temporarily avoid it? Niowu firmly replied. No, you can't take even one step back. If I'm standing here, then I'm representing Xiang City, young master. How can I do something that would embarrass young master? As soon as he finished speaking, Ngungu turned around. Give orders to everyone. The soldiers of the western city listen to your orders. Do not retreat. They all shouted in unison. Understood. On this side, Shilua's eyes confirmed the order to the beastmen squad behind. The knights obeyed. If I said don't stop, then don't stop. The beastmen squad galloped towards the Blackwater City gate where Niowu and the city lord were standing. The beastmen squad approached, Shilua and Niowu's eyes met. Not very friendly. Shilua coldly snorted and stopped his horse right in front of Niowu, the front hooves of the horse were about to hit his face. But Niowu still did not retreat half a step. Seeing Niowu still standing there, his face unchanged, Shilua praised him. He has quite a lot of courage. I didn't expect humans to be so tough. Niowu replied calmly and modestly. The leader is laughing. I'm just one of the ordinary soldiers in Xiang City. The young master is coming soon. Do you want to go into the city to rest? The head of the Beastman Guard immediately replied. I am not the leader. We are stationed outside the city. We will not disturb you. Also, your city lord is quite a big shot. How dare he keep our leader waiting? Something appeared, causing the beastmen behind him to start talking. Something is coming. What is it? A loud phantom sound came. A very large ship had just docked. The beastmen shouted in surprise. Is that a boat? Why is there such a big boat? Lu Feng's large boat stood tall on the river, its wings spread wide. Lu Feng's group of people walked ashore. The chief beast guard saw the city lord Lu Feng walking in front followed by a group of beastmen and was surprised and thoughtful. That's a beastman. Why are beastmen hanging out with humans? Seeing the city lord arrive, Ngungu raised his hand to his chest and bowed. Young master. You have arrived. The city lord of Blackwater City also greeted. Lord City Lord. You have arrived. Besides Lu Feng's group, Huron also followed behind happily cheering. Father. Seeing his daughter return. The Blackwater City Lord thought to himself. Huron. She's back. She's already got City Lord Lu Feng. Lu Feng smiled gently. Said. Sorry. Lost some time on the way. Shilua was still sitting on his horse thinking. The armor these people were wearing. And their strong temperament. I'm afraid that only the Night Guard army of my Beastman dynasty could talk about it. No, how could there be an army that could match ours? Even among the Beast Knights, the Royal Guard Knights are the strongest. There is nothing that can compare. Looking at the young man with extraordinary temperament. Shilua said. Lu Feng, the lord of Xiang City, right? Looking at the strong girl sitting on the horse. Lu Feng asked. She is. Niowu quickly replied. Young master. She is the person sent by the beast tribe on the other side to meet us. Shilua introduced himself. I am Shilua, the chief guard of the city lord Lu Feng. Our leader invites you to attend the banquet tonight. The venue is the barracks outside Blackwater City. Of course, if you are afraid, you can refuse. Seeing the disdainful attitude of the girl in front of her, Nina spoke up. Young master. Her attitude. Lu Feng interrupted. It's okay. Don't worry. Step forward in front of Shilua. Lu Feng said. Please pass the message to your leader. I agree. I will definitely be at the party on time. Shilua replied. Okay. Then we will wait for your presence tonight. With that, Shilua led the Beastmen squad back to the princess. Dees watched the girl's arrogant figure leave. Said. Inviting someone to dinner and having this attitude. Does she think we really want to leave? The food on the boat is much more delicious than the food she cooks. Mina said to Lu Feng. Young master. You shouldn't agree so easily. During the banquet, if the other party holds a grudge, then we will be very dangerous and passive. Lu Feng had been silently thinking for a while, then turned around and said. Beastmen are very perceptive. Everyone has lived and treated humans well in Xiang City for a long time, so they are used to it. However, the other beastmen are still wary of humans. We agreed to go to their territory to eat, also to show our sincerity. This will also be convenient for future cooperation. The old city lord of Blackwater City interrupted. City Lord Lu Feng. You must be tired from the journey. Why don't you go into the city and rest first? Lu Feng politely said. Sorry to bother you, City Lord Binsai. City Lord the old city lord of Blackwater City interrupted. City Lord Lu Feng. You must be tired from the journey. Why don't you go into the city and rest first? Lu Feng said politely. Sorry to bother you, City Lord Binsai. He hurriedly said. No trouble, no trouble. Lu Feng then turned to Huron and said, Miss Huron. It's still quite a while until the dinner party. It's hard for you to come back. Why don't you come and see your father more often? If anything happens, I'll call you. Huron happily replied. Thank you, Lord. Hearing this, the Binsai City Lord's tears streamed down his face as he thought, what a silly girl. What's so great about meeting an old man like me? Hurry up and follow the City Lord Lu Feng. This expression made Nyowu, who was standing behind him, confused. When night fell, Lu Feng and everyone arrived at the Beast Tribe's camp. Shilua invited them to visit the barracks. Dees was stunned. Mina's eyes were still cold and indifferent. Shilua said. I didn't expect you guys to actually come. You're looking down on everyone. Come with me. The leader has already arranged the party. Lu Feng replied politely. Sorry to bother you. Shilua led Lu Feng, Mina and Dees into the banquet hall. They quickly took their seats. When everyone was present, Leader Elsa spoke. Distinguished guests, please do not be polite. Everyone can enjoy the dishes on the table. At first glance, the dining table was quite simple. There were 3 main dishes. The beefsteak was still hot. The pork was charred on the edges. There were some raw vegetables underneath. Along with a giant chicken leg and a glass of long-aged banana wine used only for special guests. Lu Feng looked at the food on the table with distaste. He thought. There was nothing to eat. The pork was probably still undercooked inside. Dees quickly took the giant chicken leg and took a bite. But she immediately frowned and trembled. She whispered to Mina. This meat. It's salty and hard to swallow. Leader Elsa asked Lu Feng in surprise. What's wrong? Why aren't you using your chopsticks? Is the food not to your taste? Lu Feng was startled. He stuttered in response. This. Meanwhile, Shilua was chewing on a chicken leg, interrupting Lu Feng to continue. From the looks of it, did the Baron dislike the food our beastmen cooked? Leader Elsa crossed her arms and showed an annoyed expression as she blamed Shilua. Shilua, don't be rude. Lu Feng smiled to dispel the awkward atmosphere, Lu Feng said. It's not the food at the banquet was too sumptuous. It's just that we came by boat, and we were a bit seasick, so it was hard to swallow for the time being. Lu Feng felt guilty and continued, I have failed the leader's kindness. To thank the leader for his hospitality, I would like to invite the leader to have lunch together on the boat tomorrow. What do you think, leader? While listening to Lu Feng, Elsa also took a bite of the chicken leg. She looked at Lu Feng with sparkling eyes and replied. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Lu Feng smiled and affirmed firmly, he will definitely not disappoint the leader's expectations. Then we will take our leave first. Shilua rested her chin on her hand and sighed thoughtfully. While Chilua's table was empty, except for 2 pieces of steak, Lu Feng's group didn't touch their chopsticks. She was angry. It was obvious that they didn't respect the beastmen. After Lu Feng and his men left, Shilua dared to speak up. These humans are not polite at all. We sincerely invited them here, but they didn't even bother to eat their chopsticks. It was a waste that the princess specially brought out the tribe's precious food to entertain them. Princess Elsa's guards also agreed with Chilua's words. That's right, that's right. Humans are all people with their eyes set higher than their heads. It's really hard to get along with them. Princess Elsa sighed and said in a harsh voice. Okay. Stop talking. The other party's agreement to come to the party proves their sincerity. As for the food. At this point, Elsa paused hesitantly, her eyes dark, as if she was thinking about something difficult to say. She continued, perhaps the food we prepared was not to their taste. Speaking of this, the image of fish jumping and wriggling in the undulating ocean waves, the sunlight shining on their bodies made them shine. Elsa remembered the time she ate delicious pieces of fish. It was an extremely happy feeling.